Good morning, evening, afternoon, wherever you are. Hi, welcome to the impromptu review of Netflix's Devil May Cry show. Oh boy, I've been pushing this away for way too long, so yeah. I don't want to stall it any further because I feel like I'm just doing you guys injustice if I don't do this review. But yeah, it's been a interesting day so far. First of all, happy Easter, everybody. Hope you have a good Sunday. And I hope we get through most of it fairly quick because I don't want to talk about this show for any longer than I have to because the show is garbage. I hope that I get through the majority of it. If I don't get through it, then screw it. Then it's just how it is. 'Cause I'm not gonna lose any sleep on this if I don't get through this. 9 hour review incoming? Nah, I don't think so. I'm going to get through anything that related to this frigging show as fast as I can. I will show some pictures of the show. I will not show any video footage because Netflix acting like a bunch of biches. You know how it is. Sometimes they just do the thing and then they just do the BS. It's just the way it is, unfortunately. But yeah, to set the mood for this whole thing, I will set some music up in the background. Start with Nico's theme because that's probably the most appropriate piece of music I can use for this friggin' review. How you doing, honey? I'm good to see you, buddy. But yeah, I've got plenty of notes. I'm going to give you an episodic breakdown of things that are happening and why I think the show is garbage. But let me give you a quick rundown as to why I don't like this show. You're probably going to be like, "Oh, why do you care so much? It's just an adaptation." Yeah, that's exactly the friggin' problem with this. It's an adaptation that shouldn't even exist in the first place. So, to make things short, this abomination of a show. Let me actually go and get the images up. So, Devil May Cry, probably one of my favorite shows. Well, probably one of my favorite games of all time. And I can't stress enough of how influential that series was for me as a gamer and how much it actually changed my taste in gaming as a whole. So let's just put it that way. So I'll give you a quick TLDR. Some positives, mostly negatives though. Although the positives are very, very, very limited. I should add. But let me get started on what the TLDR is. So, Netflix Devil May Cry was produced by Adi Shankar, a Indian man who came to America fairly early in the early 2000s, around about the 2001s, I think. So, he's best known for producing Carl Urban's Dread. Yeah, believe it or not, I didn't even know he was a producer on that thing, but there you go. And he's also partially responsible for the Castlevania series that predates this very show. He also, ironically, worked with the Harvey Weinstein Company. Yeah, take from that what you will. And he also developed the so-called bootleg universe, where he delves into unauthorized and submersive takes of established media products like Pokemon, The Punisher, and Power Ranger. He's also partially responsible for the 10-minute short that is actually on YouTube called Punisher Laundry Day, which is starring Thomas Jane as the Punisher and Ron Perlman, believe it or not. Ironically, Adi Shankar was removed from the Castlevania series for allegations of misconduct that I'm not going to mention, that I can't delve deeper into because I don't have enough information on that. But you can take from that what you will, considering he's associated with the Weinstein Company. You can kind of guess what kind of misconduct I'm talking about. Yeah, there's an incoming round. There's an incoming round coming. I'm mentally preparing myself for it because I'm probably not in the mood to actually yell too much today because it's Easter. I actually promised myself to not get too agitated, but we'll see about that. How you doing, Nessie? So, to give you a quick rundown. So, the Netflix Devil May Cry show is a official fan fiction, partially responsible by this fucking guy you see on screen down here, Adi Shankar. It is non-canon, luckily, so it doesn't excuse the quality and the affiliation that it has with the Devil May Cry property as a whole. And I'll be honest, my expectations were very, very, very low for this show, especially after seeing some teaser footage of it with the combat that Dante was having in the very first episode, believe it or not. So yeah, it makes Ninja Theory's DMC reboot that came out in the early 2010s look like Shakespeare. And you know, the funniest part about this is everybody was shitting on DMC Devil May Cry when it came out. This show right there that this guy put out is even worse. It is like a discount Temu knockoff. Well, I mean, there's always the meme, the net. Hang on, see, so I should say I pressed the starting button. So it is that horrendously bad. You would think it was done by some freaking amateur, even though allegedly Adi Shankar has some productions underneath his belt. I don't believe that one bit because this guy and his writing team are fucking morons. I'm sorry, but I cannot stress this enough. How are you doing, please? So yeah, besides that, the musical renditions in that show of the songs that are actually licensed, especially Papa Roach's Last Resort and some of the actual songs from Devil May Cry, are somehow worse than the original tracks. I have no idea how they managed to fuck up that badly. I mean, they fucked up Devil Trigger and Bury the Light and made them like soulless renditions of what was actually good. Bury the Light cover is probably the worst offender on that one. I can't stress enough how dumb it is to mess up a song like Bury the Light. Bury the Light is a knockout song. You have to knock that out of the park. If you're not even close enough to the original, then don't even fucking try. I'm sorry, but this is just fucking dumb. So, what also is a major pet peeve of mine is the unnecessary politics that were injected into the show. You're probably going to be like, oh, why are you bringing up politics all of a sudden? Well, this guy down here, this fucking guy down here, thought it was funny to add a war allegory into the show, and a refugee allegory. This is basically Iraq war trauma dumping, what he's doing here. It is actively malicious deconstruction. Yes, you're absolutely right, Pete. You're absolutely right. It doesn't help the fact that it already seems dated when it came out, with all the references and everything. So I don't understand why it had to be that. The combat scenes are utter nonsense and very underwhelming, considering that it's done by the studio that did Legend of Korra and Boondocks. It is actually amazing that they fucked up so badly. And I mean, Legend of Korra, take it or leave it, has some okay scenes in it. So I don't understand how Studio Mir was that incompetent at their own job. It doesn't help that some of the action scenes in the show actually look bad, especially when they're animated in 3D. Somehow, I have no idea how they fucked it up that badly. But that's besides the point. Obviously, the show was split into 2 seasons, even though it was actually 1 season, because you get 8 episodes, which are 4 hours of length in total, Most episodes are not longer than 27 minutes, minus the intro and the outro. For some reason, the outro is 3 minutes long, for no reason whatsoever. And you can actually tell that Adi Shankar was more influenced by when he came to the US around 2001, because there's some references to 9/11 in it, where I'm like, did you really have to inject that into Devil May Cry? Yeah, you hire a bunch of idiots who fucked up the animation. So there's that. There's that. The major pet peeve I have with this show, I'll give you a TLDR and then I'll delve deeper into why I fucking hate this show. So, Lady is the biggest, I would say, offender of why this show is bad. So, Lady, for those who don't know, is a side character that was support character that was introduced in Devil May Cry 3. She's quite of a blank slate. Design-wise, she's kind of based on Makoto from Street Fighter 3, Third Strike. Probably one of my favorite characters as well. And Lady has a very interesting, very subtle backstory, I would say. Nothing compared to what you have in this fucking Netflix show. So, she's very subtle, not very braggy or insufferable. She does say things that make sense in the game, because she's a human. She's actually a human, and she has a broken, family, so to speak. She's not on good terms with her dad. That's the game. Lady, whose actual name is Mary, but they never really give her a last name apart from this Netflix show. So, as you can probably imagine, Lady in the Netflix show is an insufferable cunt. And I'm not using that word lightly. She is. She's absolutely insufferable. She swears so much, it is actually embarrassing. It is one of the very few characters where you wish the character would stop talking in the entire show, which is kind of hilarious considering how many F-bombs and how many times she says shit in that show. I'll give you a few examples because I actually took some notes of the things she said in the show, and it's actually hilarious. But yeah, let me get to the positives, even though there's not many. It actually, the only good thing I can give credit to for this show is the fact that it introduces more people to the Devil May Cry game series as a whole, and actually shows them that the writing in those games is far more superior than in that fucking abomination of a show. And heck, it might even introduce people to the 2007 anime, which is superior still, even though it is over 18 years old at this point. Yeah, stop, it's already dead. Exactly. It is kind of funny how it actually put more eyeballs onto Devil May Cry as a whole, but we'll see how that goes. Yeah, that's another thing I'm going to bring up in a second, Pete. So the other positive is they somehow managed to bring Evanescence back. Cool. I was craving some new music from Evanescence, and I didn't think I would need it, but there you go. We have new Evanescence music. Take from that what you will. I'm just glad we actually have some new music from them, even though it's probably not saying much. In all honesty, it is hilarious how that song is being implemented, and it's probably the best musical rendition of all the new stuff they introduced in that show, which is hilarious. The main villain of the show, White Rabbit, is actually a great villain, even though it's mostly unintentional. I have to say, the voice actor did an excellent job of portraying with the White Rabbit, and I have to say, for those who don't know, the White Rabbit is actually not an OC character that Adi Shankar created. The White Rabbit was actually in a prequel manga for Devil May Cry 3. So, that's the positives. That's where it ends. What are the negatives? Basically, I already prefaced this on Twitter a few days ago. This is basically Lady May fucking cry. And I'm deliberately using that title. The show somehow focuses more on Lady than Dante. I don't know why that choice was made. I can take a wild, educated guess why that's the case, because Netflix got a Netflix, or modern writers got to do modern writers thing. The animation is very hit and miss, as I previously stated. It seemed rather unfinished in some places too. Like especially on there's a scene where there's a highway chase where Dante is chasing someone on a motorcycle on a highway, and then it suddenly turns to actual 3D animation, and it looks fucking horrendous. It is the show, and there were some odd musical choices, despite this being set in 2001 in New York of all places, of course, because you can't have a 9/11 trauma dump without New York being mentioned or having something take place in New York. But yeah, it is basically the Devil May Cry presents Lady the show. Yep, correct, Hanayama, and featuring Dante from the Devil May Cry series. It is the meme. It's basically the meme. Dante is barely in the show. What really baffles me about this whole thing is the fact that almost every character that you know has a different voice actor. I don't necessarily have a problem with switching out voice actors, but if you give the voice of Nero from Devil May Cry 4 and 5 to Dante, especially if you're so used to the original voice, it really messes up your perception of the whole thing. You keep thinking to yourself like, is this actually done on purpose? Maybe. I don't know. We just have to wait and see. There is a funny misconception that this was done on purpose. I don't know why. It's probably because they didn't even want to bother asking Ruben Langdon for permission to come back. That's probably why. I cannot really confirm or deny whether or not they actually reached out to him or not. My guess is probably not, because the Ruben Langdon was a little bit too based for them. So that's that. Mm. So that's all I have for now. So, like I said, Adi Shankar worked on this thing. He was also partially responsible for the abomination of the latter parts of the Castlevania Netflix series. And there is some there's some hilarious things in there that I actually have to point out. So to preface this show is a 3 out of 10. I'll say this up front so people know what the gist of the whole thing is, because I don't want people to get it twisted. This show should not be watched. And if you're remotely a fan of Devil May Cry, you'll probably hate the show, especially with all the twists that they did to the lore. But I also think that your enjoyment of this show hinges on how much you actually give a shit about Devil May Cry. If you're a filthy casual, you might have a good time, or not, depending. And yeah, that is pretty much all I can say on that one. So, yeah, this is the same person that said Captain Marvel was good. I'll take everything they say and then flip it. Yeah, that's pretty much it. You have to go with the opposite of what these people are saying. Hey, Ref, how you doing? So, I want to point something out interesting. So, when the show came out, there's a character in the show voiced by the late Kevin Conroy, rest in peace, called Vice President Baines. I'll talk about him a little bit more during the review. However, Adi Shankar previously stated that well, there's a statement in the show. I'll pull up the tweet real quick. Basically, the tweet says, "Demons aren't evil; they're all just bigots. We're reaching a level of religion bad we didn't think were possible. And this is in the show, okay? This is in the show. And in that clip, it's basically this is the intro of the show. I'll talk about that in a sec. And Adi Shankar actually responded to that tweet saying that it feels like a bad faith take. My show isn't saying religion bad. But as somebody who correctly pointed out here, I'll also zoom in for you guys so you can read it. This is a person called Permaband. They basically point out the hypocrisy of the show. There's a warmonger in your Devil May Cry cartoon, and he's the only apparent religious person, a Christian. Religious individuals in every Castlevania game are dedicated to fighting evil. You have made them almost exclusively corrupt and evil in your Netflix cartoon too. Shout out to Permaband, fucking legend, exactly. And those who are good have blatantly reached ambivalence and have themselves themes of doubting in their faith. You know, Adi, it's fine to dislike religion. I'm not even a Christian and no real stake in this, but at least have the decency to not lie to people's faces. It is off putting. So, this is the character that Kevin Conroy is voicing. I'll move the chat over so you guys can actually see it. Where is it? There you go. There you go. So this is the character that Kevin Conroy is voicing. This is in episode 3 or 4. This is a scene from episode 3 or 4. Doesn't matter. I will get to it eventually. So yeah, Deus Volt. So yeah, this is image 1. This is the vice president who is religious and apparently the bad guy of the show. Even though I have to say, some of the things he says in the show are fucking based. So we get to the other comparison that Permaband rightfully pointed out. So the portrayal of religion in Castlevania games, because you have to make that comparison because it was made by the same creator. So, hi, I'm Sifa Belnades. I lived in a monastery where I trained as a monk and learned magic spells. This church sent me as a part of a team to kill Dracula. When I went missing, the Pope contacted Trevor Belmont. This was in Castlevania 3, Dracula's Curse. So we get to Aria of Sorrow, which is sometime later. Hi, I'm Yoko Belnades. I'm an officer in the Roman Catholic Church who has been sent to search for Dracula and what remains of his powers. So far, so good, right? And then we get to the Netflix show. Hi, I am a bishop who does not appear in any of the games. I am selfish, psychopathic, evil, and I caused all the problems in the series by burning Lisa Trapez, even though she was a kind person who only wanted to help because I hate science and I'm evil. I even employ an entire small army of psycho priests armed with weapons who terrorize the population. So yeah, this is just a preface for what you guys gonna get from me. So Adi Shankar already lied to people about religion bad, right? So this is already a fucking problem within itself. What's even more insulting is that this is Kevin Conroy's last voice performance that he's ever done. Granted, he does a great job for what he's given, but they at least could have used him a little bit more, you know? I'm curious if he actually managed to finish the entire show or if he was replaced mid show by somebody who sounds like him. Because I read that some of the additional voice lines that are being recorded are a sound alike. But yeah, there's some fundamental problems with that show, but yeah. I'll just leave it at that. Johnny Young Bosch is a good voice actor. He just isn't Dante. I grew up with Devil May Cry 4 when Johnny Young Bosch voices Nero. Some people may know him as Broly, but that's besides the point. But hey. Yeah, so Adi Shankar's not off to a good start. And Pete rightfully pointed out earlier that the whole turning demons into Middle Easterners is an interesting choice. Yes, I agree. Because demons are being victimized. They're basically an allegory for the Middle Eastern conflict that happened in the early 2000s, especially the war on terror against Iraq. So take from that what you will. I personally think you shouldn't put that into a Devil May Cry game, but I digress. You know? But yeah, so there's a fundamental difference here. Now, I have to point this out because this is lore breaking. You probably say to yourself, well, why are you being so mean to the show? Because I give a shit. Okay? I give a shit. So there's some fundamental differences to the games. So Dante is a half human, half demon breed, right? So far, so good. However, Dante doesn't even know that his father is a demon in the show. His father is literally Sparta, the ruler of hell, essentially. And he doesn't even know that he's half a demon. He assumes that all the powers that he has in the show are some superhero mutation. This will get problematic as the show goes on, trust me. Lady, as I already pointed out, is very mean spirited. She cusses every chance she gets. She hates demons, which is hilarious because there's some moral gray bullshit that's going to happen later on in the series where you're going to probably roll your eyes in the back of your head just as bad as I did. I almost got a migraine from all the eye rolling I did because I was being annoyed by this fucking show. So yeah, that's that. She has a very different backstory to the games. And as I pointed out previously, she has way more screen time than Dante. I would assume she probably has 60% of the runtime dedicated to herself. His father is Sparta, king of hell, murderer of Satan. Yeah, exactly. That's where this whole thing falls apart for me. Like, how in the fuck do you write this and do this? What this show feels like to me is somebody played Devil May Cry 5 and said, hey, this is cool. I want to do a show about it. And then got some cliff notes from a fucking wiki page to write this godforsaken show. There's no other way I can describe this. That this show shouldn't even fucking exist in the first place. Pardon my cussing on this very important day on 420, but yeah, I can't help myself. I can't eye roll if I don't watch it. Exactly, Uncle Martin. You spare yourself a lot with that one. And yeah, like I already said, the best episode in the show is where there's almost no dialogue in it. It's entirely music. Apart from the last, I want to say 2 minutes, when suddenly Lady appears and opens her fucking gob. But we'll get to that. We'll get to that. And like I already said, your enjoyment of the show hinges pretty much on how much you're invested in the Devil May Cry series. Hey, Angry Canadian, what's up? So let's start with the episodic breakdown. This is where this whole thing is going to fall apart for me, at least. So let me pull. Actually, you know what? Let me pull up the clip that was referenced in the in this one tweet that was in here. I'll let it run in the background without audio, of course, because I know Netflix is gonna ping me for it. I don't care, but we'll show it anyway. So let me rewind this real quick so you guys can see it. So why is the audio still playing? There you go. So the show begins with 4 to 5 guys trying to pull a heist at the Vatican to steal some religious relics worth about $2.5 million. The thieves are implied to be American. I need to point this out because this might get important later on. And as you can see, the White Rabbit shows up wielding Force Edge, Sparta's sword that Virgil gets in the games as a second melee weapon to stab people with it. Now, this is not necessarily a problem. I don't have a single problem with that. That's completely fine because this is fan fiction anyway, so who gives a shit, right? And obviously, because he's armed with that weapon, he's going to start killing these soldiers in a very gory fashion. Well, the last thing I'm associating Devil May Cry with is, you know, blood and gore. I mean, granted, Devil May Cry is fairly bloody sometimes, but only when necessary. It is not it is not not as edgy as this show is, right? So White Rabbit ends up killing all these guys, and then tells the last survivor if they want to chase the rabbit, they have to bring a hunter. He then proceeds to kill the last remaining survivor. And after killing the thieves, the White Rabbit actually blows up the room with the relics in it, and then poses outside the Vatican with demon wings, which is getting shown later on in the show. But I'm not going to show this because I don't want to get picked by Netflix. So after that, the show jumps to New York, of all places. I need to figure this one out, but yeah, it jumps to New York in 2001, showing a random lady pushing a pram. So far, so good. No issues there. If you want to go with that, sure, by all means, do it. She bumps into a man who tells her to watch her fucking step, literally, and that causes her baby to lose her rattle. The baby's called Ellie, which is not really important, but I wrote that note down anyway. See you in a bit, Uncle Martin. Demons are ontologically evil monsters with very few exceptions, and thus hating demons is a good moral and righteous action. Same-ish thing with orcs from Lord of the Rings. Yes, but there's a fundamental difference though, because this show portrays them very differently. But let me continue. So the rattle that the baby lost rolls into a dark alleyway. Now, my first instinct, if I'm in like 2001 New York, is like, gee, my baby lost the rattle and it rolled into a dark alleyway. Might as well pursue it, right? Ironically, you shouldn't even be doing that, in my opinion, because going into a dark alleyway in New York is generally a terrible idea, especially if you don't know where you are and what your surroundings are, right? This is generally like the rule of thumb, right? So let me go back to the screenshot right here. So this is the infamous trailer shot that was shown during the teaser trailer for the show, where they show off the first scenes of combat. Nothing bad about this, but yeah. So the mother, in her infinite wisdom, thinks it's a good idea to actually follow the rattle with her baby by her side into the dark alleyway. I mean, granted, you can argue for a high risk of child endangerment here, but I don't know. We'll just leave it at that. Only to be ambushed by 3 demons. So far, so good, right? So this is actually where Dante gets introduced in the show. Dante, who senses that something's going on, and then goes into the alleyway to save the day for the lady. This is almost 1/3 into the episode. Keep in mind, an episode is about 27 minutes in length, minus the intro and the outro. So just keep that in mind, okay? So, Dante calls the attacking demons the Three Stooges, because why not? I have to throw in a little pop culture reference right there, right? So far, whatever. So what happens then is you see Dante fighting the demons, and the animation in that scene already seems rather choppy. This is not a good start for a first episode, if you ask me. So there's that. He kills them off one by one, as you probably can assume, and then the remaining demon that is still left grabs onto the woman and basically tries to unalive her. But Dante just jumps up in the air and shoots the final demon in the head, yelling "jackpot." I mean, granted, it's Dante's signature catchphrase, so no gripes from me. After this is done, we get to this very scene that I'm showing on screen right here, where he suddenly gets very awkward. He turns from badass to awkward guy within within a second. So he just starts chatting in front of the woman and brings up Skeletor because why the fuck not? So he basically calls the last remaining demon that he killed Skeletor, and he says Skeletor didn't hold up since the 80s. That's where I raised a few eyebrows. Where I was like, perhaps this was a cheeky jab at Kevin Smith because he kind of fucked up Skeletor in the He-Man reboot, and yeah. So we can assume that this Devil May Cry takes place in the real world, circa 2001. I mean, more power to you. If you want to have your adaptation based in real life, by all means, go for it. I won't judge, or I will, depending on how shit it is. So yeah, while Dante talks to the woman, he has his back turned to the pram, which is kind of funny because you can see tentacles crawling up to him on behind his back. So this kind of implies that the baby has some demonic powers going on. So Dante senses the tentacles creeping up to him, turns around, and then pulls the gun on the baby. The baby starts attacking Dante, and yeah, he's ready to fire a shot, but then he gets smacked in the face by the mother's purse. That kind of makes him stumble, and the mother then somehow manages to quickly escape with the pram and the baby out of the dark alleyway into the streets of New York. Nowhere to be seen. And that's the introduction to the whole series. It then cuts to the intro sequence with Limp Bizkit's Rolling playing in the background. I'm not going to play this because Netflix is going to ping me for it, but you've probably seen it. So, yeah, I think Roland is an odd musical choice for the time this was made, but sure, why the hell not, right? This is completely fine. So yeah, you have the intro being shown, and yeah, you have Limp Bizkit's Rolling playing in the background. So far, so good. Where this whole thing loses me though is the fact that you have you somehow nerfed Dante. Somehow, Dante gets staggered by a person hit from a regular human. And yeah, Dante, if you know anything about Devil May Cry, Dante usually takes a lot of hits and takes them like a champ, basically. So there's that. But yeah, we'll just leave it at that. Let's continue. So the intro is done, and then multiple TV broadcasts are being shown talking about the attack on the Vatican that I just briefly mentioned in the intro. And there's a BBC World broadcast for some reason, and then some American network that talks about the whole thing. It's probably Fox News or something like that because it is very interesting how it is thrown in there. So one of the hosts dunks on the leftist activists and who call the U.S. the global police, who always gets involved, and even argues that it's a moral responsibility for America to lead in a crisis like this. Literally word for word what is being said in the show. So far, so good. This image here has nothing to do with it, but I'll give you some context to what's actually happening here in a second. But demons is the English Christian catch term for some reason. I think spirits is more accurate, as technically there can be a wider range of good and bad. Yep. But demon sounds cool. Yeah. So then it suddenly cuts to a radio presenter, which suspiciously looks like Asmongold for some fucking reason. I mean, the resemblance is uncanny. And he seems to be a blend of Alex Jones and Asmongold in a tracksuit with a southern accent. It is fucking hilarious when you see this, because it is kind of on brand for what this show is. It is a clusterfuck of anything, really. So this radio presenter right here is blaming the attack on the Vatican on Russia. and also calls it an attack on religion itself. I have no idea why this is in the show, but there you go. So take from that what you will. So, this broadcaster then gets picked up by a late night show host, and they just kind of shit on him for the way he looks and his takes on the attack. So yeah, then it cuts to the White House in Washington D.C. So far, so good. It's a lot of and then as you probably notice as time goes on. So yeah, so it cuts to the White House meeting, and there's some scientist guy called Dr. Fisher, who's presenting the news about what was shown to the masses. But then you get the shot of White Bunny with the demonic wings, and claims that they somehow already conducted DNA tests to confirm that the attacker was indeed a demon. I have no idea how they actually managed to get to the Vatican so quick, but there you go. It is freaking dumb. Dr. Fisher implies that the demons have lived alongside us in a parallel universe all along, with some crossing over into the human realm. Because as you notice in the introduction already, the mother had a demonic baby for some reason. There's some context to that, but we'll get to that much later. So, but the implication is that the bigger demons, who are the most fearsome and threatening, are still being stuck on the other side for now. The reason for that is because Sparta, Dante's dad, actually fought the hordes of demons in hell, and actually sealed off the entrance to hell itself with his sword and an amulet. But he stayed on the human side. That never gets brought up in the show up until like much later, but yeah, there you go. It's a blend of Asmongold, Joe Rogan, and Alex Jones, essentially, this podcasting guy. But yeah, so the doctor is an employee of a company called DarkCom. I mean, it's a little bit on the nose when you think about it, because the publisher and creator of Devil May Cry is called Capcom. Right? So there's a funny little tidbit here. But DarkCom actually stands for Dark Realm Command, which is somehow the short form for it. I don't know why. I don't care. So, yeah, the VP then comes in, who's called Baines. This fucking guy over here, voiced by Kevin Conroy. So the VP explains where DarkCom gets their funding from, and says that he's invested some of his own money into them. So there's an interest in this whole thing for the VP. So far, so good. Nothing to complain about, right? Kevin Conroy is actually criminally underused in that show, but he kind of steals the show in most scenes he's in, ironically. I mean, granted, I can't shake the feeling that he always sounds like Batman in the show, but it's because I am so used to Kevin Conroy being Batman. Yes, and Sparta is being turned into a deadbeat dad, which is not what Sparta actually is. But you can't have a modern TV show without the father being absent or being an absolute asshole. Whatever happens to actual father figures, it's kind of sad. It is kind of sad. But yeah, so then the whole press conference gets interrupted by some random White House employee who runs in with a disc that says "DarkCom" on it, and then pulls the "you gotta see this" cliche, because you always need you gotta see this cliche in any Hollywood production ever. If this were Cinema Sins, you would get a sin for this one. So take it from that what you will. Yeah. So basically, the disc shows the body cam footage of the 4 people who tried to pull the jewelry heist in the Vatican. And then the final shot of the camera conveniently shows off White Rabbit wielding Force Edge, the Spada sword, for some reason. And basically, Dr. Fisher, the doctor who's in the show, recognizes the Force Edge, and then, yeah, I don't know, he just gasps. The US president in the show, I need to find a picture of him because it's actually hilarious how he looks. The president. I hope they show him in one image because he's actually Texan. It is fucking hilarious. It's a guy wearing a cowboy hat and actually looks like a freaking cowboy. Oh, there he is. I found him. Ha! Let me whip this image up real quick. So this is the president of the United States in the show. This is the fucking president. You cannot get any more stereotypical than this one. Of course, he has a southern accent and everything, but yeah, I digress. So yeah, the U.S. president is pretty shocked by this revelation that a white rabbit is going around murdering random people, basically. The interesting thing is, I didn't even mention this. The white rabbit doesn't steal any of the religious relics. He actually leaves them behind, even though he could easily make some cash out of them. But yeah. So all the people in the room finished watching the gory footage of all these mercenaries being unalived, essentially. And yeah, it cuts to where White Rabbit says, "Find the hunter." The vice president Baines makes an order to make it so that they should bring in any demon hunter they can have. With the president having no objection to that order, it just says, "Well, just say just do what he wants." No problem with that. Because let's be honest here, most of the time the shot caller behind the scenes is usually the VP and not the actual president. He just gives advice and that's it. So let me just whip up the image and find an image real quick while I'm at it, because this is actually important for later on, because there's a cameo in that particular scene I'm going to bring up in a second. So yeah, basically there's a montage being shown of the Darkcom employees violently detaining and capturing random demon hunters. And for some reason, Darkcom is wearing like armor that looks a bit reminiscent of Captain Commando, a Capcom character. For those who don't know who Captain Commando is, I'll show you an image of him in a second, because it's actually important, because this armor is pretty to the point of pretty obvious. Let's just put it that way. But okay. Let me zoom in on this motherfucker. So this is the armor that they're wearing. Well, the armor is pretty similar. You will see it on Lady in a second. It is very close to the armor of Captain Commando, which is the company mascot of Capcom, sort of. Nothing to frown upon. Just an observation, a random observation I made. No criticism whatsoever. It's just morbid curiosity from myself. So yeah, so you see the random demon hunters getting detained, and it cuts to a diner. You probably think to yourself, well, so why would they cut to a diner all of a sudden? Well, because the show remembers that this show is called Devil May Cry and not President Detains Random Demon Hunters. So we cut to a scene in a diner where Dante is going in to eat his regular sundae, and the waitress actually leaves his phone number on a napkin for him, and Dante just looks at it like, huh, whatever, and just wipes his mouth with it. Nothing to frown upon. I guess Dante is just a little bit oblivious. And before Dante can actually eat his sundae ice cream, a truck crashes into the diner. Dante somehow slows down time and rescues all the people present in the diner. I think it's like 4 or 5 people, and rescues them from the impact of the truck crashing into the diner and exploding. Just some regular superhero kind of shit, you know? But Dante swears he's not a demon. So, to make matters even funnier, Virgil suddenly shows up. For those who don't know, Virgil is Dante's half brother. Well, no, wait, not half brother, twin brother. Sorry, twin brother. And Dante actually assumed that Virgil is dead in the show because he assumed that him and his mom died from a demon attack. Twin brother, right? Virgil's Dante's twin brother. Doesn't make any lick of sense, but sure, he's here. For those who are curious, he's voiced by Robbie Daymond, who is a voice actor for a lot of characters that I actually like. Mainly Goro Akechi, Prompto from Final Fantasy 15, if you give a shit about the English dub, but that's besides this point. But moving on. So Virgil somehow shows up and says that they have much to catch up on. Sure, I mean, he was believed to be dead, so why the fuck not, right? Upon seeing Virgil, Dante, who he thought was dead, Dante has a flashback to their childhood, basically showing that showing the crucial scene where Dante and Virgil actually get their medallions, which are actually a crucial element to their identity and what connects them to Sparta and their mom, of course. Virgil then says that he's there in the flesh and suddenly shoots blue tentacle beams out of his fingers. Now, where did we hear that before? Pretty sure we had a baby that shot out tentacles out of had some tentacles going on, right? This gets important in a bit, so just bear with me. So, Dante's natural response is to fire guns at his twin brother, and hitting Virgil's hands to just knock him off balance, and then shots his brother in the head. With Virgil then dropping to the floor, being dead. You'd think to yourself, well, Virgil is a half demon. How in the fuck does he kill him with one single headshot? I'm with you on that one. I have no answer for that one. But somehow, he is dead. Dead as a dodo. You think to yourself, like, okay, whatever. Oh boy, trust me, you haven't not seen the worst yet. So, yeah, Virgil drops to the floor. Nothing to frown upon. Happens. Hey, Phoenix, how you doing? So, yeah, he drops to the floor, dead. Dead as a dodo. Yeah, upon dropping to the floor, it is revealed that it is actually not Virgil, but a cyclopic red-eye, blue-skinned creature who also mimicked the baby in the Dante's introduction, which is this guy over here. A creature called Plasma. Now, I have no recollection of this character being in anything Devil May Cry related, so he may as well be in OC Do Not Steal, as far as I'm concerned. So yeah, take from that what you will. So it is that's part of it. So then Dante proceeds to shoot the diner's ground in a circle to make an escape route for him and the survivors of the truck that was being flung into the diner. Keep in mind, everybody survives this explosion and just, you know, I ain't touched in watching this show. This is the most exposure I'm gonna get. Yeah, basically. Keep his wife's name out of your fucking mouth. Well, it's close to Will Smith. Yeah, I would say so. Yeah. Yeah, Dante pulls out his pistols and shoots a circle into the ground to make an escape route. Nothing to frown upon. I guess New York concrete is weak as fuck, so you can just shoot fruit with guns. So, yeah, Dante makes an escape route for himself and the others. and then proceeds to pursue the blue creature that ambushes the blue creature that somehow managed to get up and actually escape. And that creature actually ambushes him from behind. So far, so good. Then all of a sudden, it cuts back to the White House, where it cuts to a dark room where all the detainees, the detained demon hunters, go. You get a shot of all the hunters that are being detained, and for some odd reason, Lucia from Devil May Cry 2 is there. This show is supposed to be an alleged prequel to Devil May Cry 3, so this doesn't make any fucking sense. Hey Cassie, how's it going? So, yeah, she's there for some reason. This is the only cameo you will get from her in the entire thing. Lucia is somehow there. I don't know why. It's just like, hey, member. It's probably just some frigging key jangling. I don't care. I don't give a shit. So there's that. Then a blonde-haired British hunter implies that he may know something about the White Rabbit and talks about him on the records because the vice president pressed him on any information. So I will call him Blondie for the time being. Blondie implies that he knows a guy who is some kind of broker for demon hunters and mercenaries. And he introduces him to that's the guy that introduced him to White Rabbit. Even though he didn't believe him at first because he was a drunken liar. I mean, we all talk about demons randomly and just think it's did you clap when you saw it? Oh, fuck no. I actually rolled my eyes. I was like, huh? Like I was more confused than anything, to be perfectly honest with you. So yeah, there's that. So let's speed things up. So the VP deducts that the White Rabbit was operating in somewhere in New York for some reason, and asks the asks Blondie to give him a name. So then it cuts to a nightclub that is being raided by some of the .com forces. Yeah, happy Resurrection Day, indeed. So then they detain a guy called Enzo Farino, which is, as far as I'm concerned, never been in a Devil May Cry property that I know of. Enzo Farino somehow looks like a mix of Guy Fieri and something else. It is actually kind of uncanny. Just look at this guy. He looks like fucking Guy Fieri. For those who don't know who the Guy Fieri is, he's the front singer of Smash Mouth, and he's also running a show on the TV network, Food Network, called Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives. The resemblance is fucking uncanny. I'll say this much. So it's called Enzo Farino. He gets detained by .com. So Farino wakes up handcuffed in an interrogation room and then gets threatened with a connected jumper cables with electricity. Basically doing the nipple tweezers. Yeah. So the if you want a audio representation of what he sounds like, think of the most stereotypical American Italian accent that you can think of in movies. Think like maybe Joe Pesci or Robert De Niro back in like the Godfather or Casino days. Dante's hair looks okay. Yeah, it's passable. This is much later in the show, but I needed a visual representation for this fucking guy over here. Does he do that? Well, well, he's handcuffed, but you can almost assume that he does. Yes. But yeah, so basically, he gets interrogated by the Vice President Baines, who then presses Farino about the White Rabbit. And Enzo basically confirms that he knows the White Rabbit and that he had a job for him. White Rabbit wanted some demons dead on the west side of New York for calling too much attention upon themselves. Babbity boopy. Yeah, so that's a pretty odd request, isn't it? So there's that. The White Rabbit seemingly paid Enzo, so he didn't ask any questions about his motif. So Enzo wouldn't question his motif, and goes on to say that White Rabbit wanted one particular hunter for his job, and that he wouldn't take anyone else. You can take a wild, educated guess who that hunter is. I'll give you 2 or 3 seconds to think about who that might be. So yeah, Enzo then mentions that it is indeed Dante. So yeah, there's that. And yeah, so Enzo is basically the surrogate information dump. Let me see if I can zoom in on myself again. It's a bit blurry, but yeah, basically Enzo serves as the exposition dump for Dante in this episode. So Enzo basically brings up that Dante had a troubled past. The father was not around. Mother and Virgil were murdered by demons. That's the implication that this show makes. So far, so good. This is as fan base as it gets. For some reason, it's not zooming into my face again. It's probably because of the microphone. But yeah. So yeah, there's that. So far, so good. Deviating a little bit too much from the source material, but whatever. Then Dr. Fisher, the scientist, gets shown and looks up Dante in the database. Pretty much confirms what Enzo has been saying. The database brings up that Dante has gone AWOL from 5 hired jobs because of getting too bored of them. I mean, that checks out. Dante gets bored easily, so I guess that's that. Yeah, I don't know why my camera is not focusing on my face, but that's okay. It'll even itself out, so I don't care. Anyway, so then it cuts back to the ambush that the blue creature is doing on Dante, and the blue shapeshifter wants Dante's amulet. I mean, sure, whatever. Dante somehow dodges the attack and shoots him, and then quips back that pretending to be Virgil was little bit much, and that he should have stuck with being a creepy baby. I agree. Yeah, I think it's the American flag that it's focusing on a little too much, but that's okay. Maybe it will even itself out. It just doesn't like my face, so it's okay. I'm used to it. So yeah, the scene then transitions into a semi-first-person perspective with Dante shooting his gun's cross out, which is which is a pretty cool shot, admittedly, but that's one of the very few cool shots in the show. He misses the demon and then hits a fire extinguisher instead. So you can take a well-educated guess that Dante is kind of a doofus in this show. Not very good at aiming. Takes a beating from a woman's purse and then gets startled by it. Not off to a good start. So yeah, the demon somehow surprises Dante again after he shot the fucking fire extinguisher. Sure, whatever. Restrains him and then snatches the amulet off of him with his tongue. I want you to think about that. With his tongue. Dante is a dumbass. Yes. Then Dante breaks free from his grip and then with his left hand and then punches the demon in the jaw. The demon flies across the room, slamming into a wall, being nothing but a puddle of goo. I mean, checks out because that creature is a blue goo monster. Dante presses the blue guy about why he wants to steal the amulet, and the shapeshifter points out the irony that Dante doesn't know what he truly is. Because at this point in the show, Dante doesn't even know that he's half a demon. He assumes that he has superhero powers. So yeah, Dante is like a new player playing him on legendary difficulty, basically. Yes. And the shapeshifter then proceeds to like blow himself up to like a giant, massive freaking creature, and then just explodes in a cloud. And then the blue creature suddenly turns into a bat and just escapes the fucking diner. Who wrote this? Adi Shankar and a bunch of retards. I hope these motherfuckers never get hired again. I really fucking hope they get never hired again. So there you go. So Dante is rather frustrated about the demon escaping, but he requires the amulet. So yeah, there's that. So the show then cuts back to Enzo. for some reason, and Enzo talks about demons who cross over to the human realm by possessing things like a poltergeist. Enzo implies that the White Rabbit is a possessed kid's toy. I mean, wouldn't be surprising at this point, considering how stupid the writing is. But there you go. The vice president then sent a team of Darkcom soldiers after White Rabbit to detain him. And obviously, as we saw in the beginning of the show, White Rabbit doesn't fuck around. He just kills the entire team except for one soldier. Which is, let me see. I have an image pulled up of the guy. A guy called Anders. An OC Do Not Steal. I don't recall him in being in any piece of Devil May Cry media, so take from that what you will. So this guy somehow survives the attack of the White Rabbit with merely 3 scratches to his face. I just want you to look at the image and tell me that there's no coincidence that this guy survived. I'll just leave his image up for the time being. So yeah, then Enzo gets asked about Spada. He then gives an exposition dump on who he is and what he did. So Spada casted a barrier between Earth and Hell with his demon sword Spada, and with the help of a magic amulet, which subsequently got split into 2 to make it harder to find. I mean, the amulet is split into 2 because that's actually what happened in Devil May Cry 3. Because Dante and Virgil both have one part of the amulet, which is one of the only few connections that they have to Spada himself. That's probably the only faithful thing that they've added to the show so far. Sure. So, yeah. The Devil Sword Spada has a socket for the amulet, and the amulet is basically a transmitter for the portal between the human and demon realm. And he even gives his OC a cool Hollywood scar. Reminds me of Shyamalan inserting himself into movies as the most important character. M. Night Shyamalan does love doing that, yeah. So basically, Fisher, the scientist in the show, then talks about the implications when the spell is broken and the hell creatures invade Earth, which is basically doom and gloom and humanity is fucked. This is me paraphrasing, of course. So yeah, there's that. So the surviving soldier, who is Anderson, then very clunkily delivers the White Rabbit motif to the vice president, because of course. And White Rabbit's plan is to set up Dante and steal the other part of the amulet, because of course. Then it cuts to Dante wearing a fedora and doing a dance number. Let me actually see if I can find an image of that, because it is actually. Although, you know what? Maybe I could find the scene on Twitter, because I need you to see this. I need you guys to see this. So let me just do this real quick. It is a 27 seconds sequence. M. Night Shyamalan Ding Dong, as I call him. So this is, I hope it shows actually. So this is the scene of Dante doing a dance number. I deliberately don't play any audio. And this is a direct rip from the Dr. Faust dance sequence from Devil May Cry 5. Almost 1 for 1. If we're being generous here. And instead of just doing a random dance number, he's actually playing a DDR clone for some fucking reason. As you can see on screen right now. No idea why this is in the show, but there you go. This is probably the most amount of fan service you will get in this show. So there you have it. So, and of course, Dante fails at the Dance Dance Revolution clone miserably, and then he drops to the floor exhausted, and that's the end of episode 1. Where a cappella rendition of Devils Never Cry gets played. Then you have 3 minutes of outros, and then we're off to episode 2. So far, so good. I'm happy if I get through 4 of the episodes this time. I might actually do a review of the rest some other time, but we'll see how far we can get. It is fine, you know. It's I mean, if you like the show, whatever. I won't judge you, but you know, Demon Slayer season 1 anime looks like Dante fails at everything. Basically, yes. And keep in mind, this is 8 episodes. This was probably originally a 16 episode show, which was cut into 2 pieces, just so Netflix can say, "Oh, we got 2 seasons." Gosh, fucking retards. But yeah, episode 2, which is called Our Lady of Sorrows, is roughly 29 minutes long, plus minus the outro and intro thing, but it doesn't really matter. So it basically starts with the episode starts with Darkcom HQ in Washington D.C. It shows some mercenaries working for Darkcom, including Lady. Some of the team members don't like each other very much, and then the vice president enters the room and holds a briefing about the Sparta amulet. Dante is considered a top level threat for some reason, because why the fuck not? And the mercenaries don't take this introduction seriously and laugh when Dante appears on screen. That's the introduction to the episode. It then cuts to the intro sequence, and then you get introduced to Lady. This is Lady in the Netflix show. For comparison, because I do give a shit. Here's Lady in the original Devil May Cry anime. The less said about that, the better. So yeah, the camera cuts to a burly ginger-haired mercenary who once worked with Dante. He basically tells his teammates that Dante is out of their league and said everyone that would pursue him would be a dead man, which is true because Dante doesn't fuck around unless he's on the level of retardation that he is in the show. But I digress. No money could entice him to go after him and is about to leave the room until Baines actually mentions the bounty that is on Dante's head or body. 500,000 US dollars for Dante with the amulet. There's a bonus for bringing him back alive. So far, so good. Whatever. The mercenary then changes his mind and sits back down, even though he previously stated that no money would entice him to actually go after Dante. Remember? Then basically they go by their plan, saying that Enzo will be deployed as a civilian distraction. So basically, he's being used as bait to get Dante to actually get captured by Darkon or the mercenaries, which is a pretty dumb plan, all things considered, because Dante is not that stupid. He probably will notice that there's something off about this whole thing, but that's okay. I'll just leave it at that. Yeah, Lady has been, yeah. Don't get me started on that one. So basically, there's a cowboy hat guy who starts flirting with Lady when she gives him the stanky face. And then Lady reveals that she is and who she is, and not even 5 sentences in, she starts to drop an F bomb. She shows off her anti demon bullets filled with green goo. I mean, sure, whatever. It acts like a normal bullet to humans, but to demons, it works like a chemical bomb. So when you're a demon, it blows you the fuck up. Sure, whatever. Lady describes how humanoid demons stand out because they have like longer limbs and smell a certain way. So she finds out that the cowboy guy actually is a demon. So she rips the bandana off his neck and reveals the true nature of the guy. The cowboy merc then attacks Vice President Baines, but it gets pulled back just in time by Lady and equipped with jet boots, who pulls this guy back. She pulls him back and then pops the cap into his head. The head explodes, killing the merc. So far, so good. So there's that. Done. So she then spits on the floor and says, "Devil spawn, motherfucker." Anyone? Yeah, me neither. Me neither. At this point, Lady already has more screen time than Dante. Dante has about 5 minutes, 6 minutes. Lady already has way more screen time than Dante. In this iteration of DMC, Lady doesn't disavow her connections to her father, Arkham. She actually has Arkham as a last name. So she's called Mary Arkham in the show, which is kind of funny because when Vice President Baines says Arkham, he does sound like Kevin Conroy does sound like Batman. But that's besides the point. But yeah. And obviously, because you can't have a vice president hating a girl boss, he holds her in very high regard. Kisses her ass a little bit too much for my liking. Anders, the blonde black guy who is the survivor of the White Rabbit attack, becomes the newest member of the Darkcom Elite operatives because, of course, because you need more people of color in your team. So why the fuck not? Lady, however, questions whether or not he's actually the right guy for the job and questions his competence based. But Vice President Baines reassures her that God willed it to be so. So there you go. You have the religious nut job actually dragging God's name through the mud some more. So because why not? The show then hard cuts to Dante's apartment, where Enzo is looking for him, and Dante ambushes him with a pulled gun. Dante tells him what happened at the last job he gave him, and yeah, basically says the last job is basically like some random merc job that kind of went south for some odd reason. It then cuts to the mercenaries pulling up in multiple vans, storming the building. Sure, because why not? Enzo basically tells Dante that he got tricked into taking the gig for Dante, and Dante somehow believes that, even though it doesn't make a lick of sense that Dante believes him. He's just very freaking gullible, apparently. But sure, whatever. Then Dante tells Enzo comes in with a false pretense of bringing Dante the second half of his cut for the job that went a bit shit. But sure. And Dante then, for some reason, tells Enzo about the demon that pretended to be Virgil and doesn't believe that Enzo wouldn't set him up. Okay, sure, whatever. And Enzo said it was only this time that he may have set him up. Whatever. Dante looks through a drawer with a small pizza box, and then remember because Dante loves pizza. Because Dante is wacky wahoo pizza man, right? Okay, great. What's up? The box doesn't contain a tasty slice of pizza, however. It actually contains his second gun. Because he only pulled one gun on Enzo instead of two. Because Dante always has one gun with him at all times. Whatever. So Enzo tries to convince Dante to give him the necklace, which Dante denies because he promised to keep an eye out on the necklace, honoring the promise that he made his mom. So far, so good. Nothing to frown upon here. And then gives you a little flashback of little Dante getting his part of the Sparta necklace from his mother, Eva. Yeah, and that's the last thing that is left of his mother, and he swears that nobody will take it away from him. Makes sense. That's what Dante does. For some reason, there's like small sprinkles of lore where you're like, yeah, that checks out. then there's parts where you're like, huh, what? So yeah, then Enzo tries to hop out and gets helped by Dante at gunpoint because Dante doesn't trust Enzo one bit and proceeds to tie Enzo up and put a mop on his head, distracting the mercenaries that were just pulling up to his place. Dante ambushes the mercs with balls from his pool table and takes them a lot out just by hitting the snooker balls in their face. Cool shot, but does nothing for me. Bit cliche actually, but yeah. And then he takes most of the mercs out non-lethal, of course, because Dante is just a crazy mofo. It's actually a pretty cool shot where he takes out the mercs. I need to figure out if I can find a shot of that. Maybe we can see that scene somewhere. Okay, apparently not, but that's okay. Excuse me, I had to sneeze there. I'm getting allergic to that show already, so there you go. Yeah, so he takes them out non-lethal, of course, because Dante doesn't kill people, obviously. So I digress. Then Enzo questions Dante if it was really necessary to disguise him as him, and Dante says they're even now. So he just walks through his vandalized home and turns on the jukebox after freeing Enzo from his from the chair. And when he puts on the jukebox, Gorilla Radio from Rage Against the Machine starts randomly playing. I had never associated Rage Against the Machine with Devil May Cry, but there we go. So then they show a montage of more mercenary teams pulling up to the apartment, and one of the mercenaries compliments Dante's musical taste while running up the stairs, because why not? Dante jams out to the song playing with air guitar, which is pretty funny in context, but doesn't make any lick of sense. Some mercs actually prepare dynamite on a wall to blow up the wall. And as they barge open the apartment door, Dante cuts one of the beams in his apartment to take out the big, bulky ginger guy that was originally a little bit hesitant to actually attack him. Yeah, so far the writing is a little silly, to say the very least, you know. So yeah, the big bulky guy then gets flung back into the stairway, and you don't see him again. The other mercs then break through the wall with the dynamite, and Dante takes the mercs out one by one. It's a cool shot, but very very nonsensical in the context of the show. Then there's one guy left, and Dante stands literally in front of him. And the last remaining guy had a shotgun in his hand, so he only does what you only do in this situation. He blasts him with the shotgun in the chest. So far, so good. You just see a bit of blood flying about, and then the guy gets bewildered by Dante's healing factor because he takes that shotgun shot by like a champ. Dante then slams the guy into a Street Fighter arcade cabinet, which then shows Ken from Street Fighter 2 actually winning, and it says you win. Because we needed a little bit of Capcom product placement in that show, because remember, Capcom foot the bill partially. But whatever. So, the Darkom Elite troops, who are actually not on the scene, witness this whole thing. to figure out why this fucking camera is not zooming in properly. There you go. So they witness it on a live feed and are blown away by Dante's healing factor, because of course they are. Guys, remember Capcom, same guy. Exactly. Which is kind of funny because Dante is not voiced by Ruben Langdon in the show, who also voices Ken. That would have been a very neat reference, actually. So it's like a jab at the Ruben. Yeah, exactly, Greg. Exactly. Yeah, you don't want to watch this shit. Trust me. It's only 4 hours, but trust me, it gets worse. So yeah, the guy gets knocked out, and the whole team except for Lady didn't read the intelligence briefing because why would they? Because they don't care. And Lady gives a very sloppily written exposition about Sparta, big bad warrior, blah blah blah. That's literally what she says. And Mundus. She then proceeds to cuss again for no reason. Sparta woke up one morning saying, "Hey, this is evil as fuck." Original writing. I'm reading this verbatim. Verbatim. Who the fuck talks like this? Nobody. No normal human being talks like this. Especially when they give an exposition dump. If you don't care about giving us lore, then don't even fucking bother. Fuck this show. Anyway, while Lady gives this exposition, it transitions over to Dante fighting the remaining mercenaries that are still alive, and cutting back to Mundus taking on the hordes of hell. So it's actually a pretty cool shot. So you basically see the connection between Dante and Sparta in that one. I only talk like that when I'm not it's talking whatever I'm talking about seriously. Yeah, basically. The bulky ginger guy then picks apparently recovered from the blow with the high beam, and asks Dante if he remembers him. Apparently he's called Ani, because remember bulky tall guy. That dude then proceeds to bargain with Dante, trying to shake his hand, and Dante then ends up punching him in the face with the guy flying through the room. Okay, whatever. And then cuts back to Anders looking at a picture from his kid, which prompts his team members to get curious, asking him if these are his kids. And yeah, basically, Anders, the blonde black guy, says like, "Yeah, I'm doing this to get some money for my family and try to protect them from demons." Noble cause. I can get behind that. Sure. Lady then suddenly gets impatient because she's an absolute turbo cunt, and then zip lines on top of the building that she was positioned in, because she was not with the other team members, and zip lines into the building where Dante's apartment is at. She manages to somehow steal the amulet, because of course she did, because it's Lady May Cry, for Christ's sakes, and then gets away running on top of rooftops. Sure, whatever. Yeah, it's like making a reference of Alfred saying Batman and Bruce are the same person, right? Basically. So yeah, Lady then escapes on top of the rooftops. Dante catches up to her. She jumps over him, and they start shooting each other, because why not? And after a little bit of banter, she rips open his shirt, revealing his perfectly toned body, because you need to objectify the male character. Sure, whatever. Pfft. Let me find a perfect screenshot for that. I hope they have a shot for that, because I need to show you guys this, because it's fucking dumb. Well, this is close enough, I guess. So I'll just show this real quick. But yeah, I don't remember Lady being an absolute turbo cunt. See? Let me just pause this real quick. There you go. So she then holds him by his jacket, Dante tries to explain to Lady that he's not the demon that she's after. And Dante cuts her guns in half with the sword. They fall apart. Sure, whatever. Could have easily killed Lady in that moment, but eh. They wanted the Easter egg of Dante's DMC3 effect. Yeah, but it's very sloppily delivered by the show. So yeah, they continue fighting for no reason, even though Lady doesn't have any guns. But sure, Lady claims that killing the demons kill each other all the time. Death and destruction is in their nature. Sure, I guess. Dante gets agitated by the fact that everyone wants his amulet, much to the bemusement of Lady. She finds it very amusing that Dante doesn't understand what's going on. Lady then kicks Dante in the face, pressing a button on her wrist to summon a grenade out of nowhere. Like literally, she presses something on her wrist, and a grenade appears in her hand out of nowhere. This doesn't get explained, but there's a grenade. She gives it to Dante, and that grenade almost explodes instantly. She's then shown landing on the ground with the amulet in her position and runs away, which kind of makes Lady a bad guy. Last I checked, Lady is not a villain, and she barely holds a candle to Dante. I mean, there's a boss fight where Dante fights Lady, and Lady barely holds her own against him. Barely. Dante survived the explosion because, of course, he does, because he's a demon. And then he wanted to pursue Lady and then rushes through a door yelling, "Jackpot!" with no Lady inside. So he's just cross arming, like, "Jackpot!" She then shoots Dante from behind with shock bullets, rendering him defenseless. Pretty sure Dante can take electricity, but whatever. She then shoots Dante she shoots Dante with the shock bullets, and she then injects some random serum into him to make him unconscious and takes him into custody. The episode ends with a shot from Dante's perspective, looking outside of the van the elite troops are taking Dante with, and she just says, "Who caught who now, motherfucker?" Cringe is what this is called. I had secondhand embarrassment watching that show. Trust me. So we then proceed with episode 3, which is about 27 minutes long. It's called The Deep and the Savage Way. Whatever. I don't care. I just want to get through this. So we get a 3-minute flashback to Lady's childhood, which basically shows how she became a demon hunter. Apparently, she used to love guns as a kid. Whatever. She and her family were chased by. Then it shows a scene where she and her family were chased by a man, like some random homeless guy, who turned out to be a demon. Kid Lady then pulls her toy gun on the demon. That demon then jumps across the train tracks to the other platform, which they're in the New York subway. I should add some context to that. Mary's mom then rushes towards her because can't have the dad have any agency because fathers are just fucking stupid in modern day Hollywood. Yeah, who's cringe now, motherfucker? Exactly. But yeah, instead of the dad, it's actually Mary's mom rushing to protect her from the demon. Just as before the demon can even reach them, a subway train comes in and hits the demon that is being killed by the impact. Sure, whatever. So yeah, they file a police report claiming that the man was a demon, but nobody believes them, of course, because that's just ridiculous. Why would there be a demon hunting them in the middle of the night on a subway station? Let's see if I can show you the flashback so you can see what I've seen. It is fucking stupid. If you haven't figured it out yet, lady's very, very annoying in this show. Very annoying. She complains a lot. She cusses like a fucking drunken sailor. But sure, whatever. This is not the lady that I grew up with. To give you a little bit of context, this is lady when she was a kid, watching some zombie movie in the theater. She's probably only 6 or 7 years old. Okay, so moms are fucking crazy about our kids. It makes sense for a mother to jump, but it makes no sense that the father doesn't clamor to. Yeah, the father is basically a Mansell in that scene, which doesn't make any sense because that's not how Arkham was in the original game. But this is the funniest thing is they actually give Arkham a first name in the show called John. So he's John Arkham because they couldn't think of a more original name than John. Sure, whatever. I don't care. Anyway, so the police doesn't believe them, of course, because they think it's just some crazy mumbo jumbo. And the file police report that claim that the man was a demon. John Arkham then reads an article that calls him a nut job because the media suddenly caught on to the fact that the famous scientist John Arkham is just a crazy nut job that believes that demons exist. Sure, okay. Arkham is not the same as in the one in the games. I should point out because that's not the same one. Let me see if I can find a comparison because it is fundamentally important to show the difference between the Arkham that is in the show and the one in the anime. Let me see. Let me put some bury the light on for the time being. So, to give you a little bit of context, this is Arkham in Devil May Cry 3. Kind of cool, right? This is what Arkham looks like in the anime. Sure, I guess. So there's that. Yeah, so basically he's a cuck. But yeah, I'll just leave it at that. I think I just lost the music there for a second. From cool to neurotic. Yep, basically. Basically. I'll just leave it at that because I don't care. So where did we leave? Oh yeah. So he, however, feels very vindicated about his studies and theories on the demon realm because he now pretty much has the confirmation that demons walk amongst humans. Okay, sure. Then it cuts to him arguing with his wife. And then she then claims that her and Mary barely get to see John anymore. Ah, yes, the good old deadbeat dad trope. Because you can't have any good father figures in media anymore. Every father has to be a piece of shit. Arkham is of the impression that the authorities are worthless and that he needs to gain more power in order to protect his family. His wife then takes a jab at him for not protecting them in the subway. Because of course she does. Because you can't have a female character in modern media anymore that's not being an actual cunt. But yeah, which causes him to rage, and then surprisingly, she actually apologizes to him for being a cunt to him. Adi Shankar has definitely some mom issues, yeah. But yeah, that's just they really changed his character. Arkham is a great villain, and he's a pretty blank slate in my opinion. Demons walk amongst humans, but technically no. But sure, yeah, exactly, Greg. So yeah, of course, Mary sees the two arguing because you always have to bring up the childhood trauma of things, because why the fuck not? I guess. And then it cuts to the intro again. So you have the fucking show intro rolling just after that revelation. You then it then cuts to a 4 APC convoy taking Dante and Enzo back to Vice President Baines, which is the image that I showed a little bit earlier, which is this one. This is in the van, the APC. Abe, what's up, brother? So yeah, this is the shot from that episode. Dante questions whether his detainment is against the Geneva Conventions when then Lady tells Dante that that one only applies to humans. Really? At this point in the story, Dante still believes that he's a superhero with a healing factor and not a demon, or that he has got some sort of superhero mutation. It is the angled shot. Why Enzo's head is so big. Also, I'm pretty sure that Adi Shankar mixed up Bayonetta with Devil May Cry, because Enzo is actually a character in in Bayonetta. But sure. Lady then tells Dante that only one apply the Geneva Convention only applies to humans, and Dante tells Enzo that this is the second worst job he's ever given him. And Enzo makes a joke that this asking Dante if it's worse than the one Raccoon City job that he got. Is Adi Shankar implying that Dante was in Raccoon City? Or was in Raccoon City at some point? Which doesn't make any fucking sense. But sure, yeah, whatever. And Dante replies that it's only the first worst job that he's ever gotten. For those who don't know, I should preface this. DMC, the original Devil May Cry, was only made possible thanks to Resident Evil. Resident Evil 4, in fact. But the development team veered so off the path of what Resident Evil used to be. So that's how Devil May Cry came to be. Hey, Sassy. Yeah, Cassie. I keep forgetting that you actually changed your name, Cassie. Resident Evil. Yeah, I don't know. Adi Shankar must have something in his coffee that morning, or I don't know. I don't know why Raccoon City's even being brought up, because last I checked, Dante was not in Raccoon City. But sure. But maybe it's just a sneaky reference because Devil May Cry wouldn't exist without Resident Evil. That's the only explanation I can give you. I personally believe that Adi Shankar only played Devil May Cry 5 and then actually read a wiki on the game series. Because this kind of writing you can only get with somebody who only reads a Wikipedia. It's another fucking key jangling. Hey, member? Raccoon City? Resident Evil? Member? That's basically what this is. But yeah. Anyway. So, yeah. Then it shows that Lady gets a new pair of guns from Command, and she complains about them about the fact that she didn't get those guns earlier. And then it would have been more useful if you gave me the shit before the mission. And that's what she says and complains with. Those guns are magnetic, so whenever she pulls her hands up, the guns actually snatch to her hands, like two pistols. That's also plausible, Phoenix. An eggs on a string. Yeah, good question, Abe. So yeah, her colleague dismisses the claim by saying that they are just prototypes provided by Neil Goldstein. Neil Goldstein is the gunsmith that provides Dante with his guns in the original game. So another little mention there. Those prototypes, however, have not been approved yet. So there you go. Dr. Fisher, the scientist that is in the show, then has a Sparta amulet transmitter that actually works in accordance to the amulet that's being attached to the machine. It says that the transmitter works just as intended. However, the professor is worried that what may happen if the transmitter breaks now that the amulets are joined back together, because for some reason they have both amulets. Even though White Rabbit was shown to have the other part of the amulet, but sure, whatever. Then a soldier who escorts the doctor says that if they just smash through the wall of the demon world, if it once it's opened, why? No, wait. Let me preface this. There's a soldier with Dr. Fisher who asks if it's possible to just smash through the wall of the demon realm once the transmitter actually works. The doctor denies that by saying that's not possible. It is pretty dumb, but yeah. If the transmitter gets destroyed, the stability of either universe is at risk. And I ask myself, why in the fuck did you make this transmitter in the first place if it destabilizes either world to begin with? That part of the plot doesn't make any fucking sense. Yeah, he used the cheat sheet. That's getting more and more evident as the show progresses. So yeah, it cuts back to Dante trying to free himself from the cuffs, as you see on this very image right here. He's cuffed up with regular handcuffs because regular handcuffs apparently work on Dante. But yeah, Dante has the idea of using his boot buckle to try and open the cuffs and tries to give Enzo some obvious hints that the buckle on the boot could help them. But Enzo is too dumb to understand Dante and just makes this scene very cringe. Dante uses a lot of boot buckle puns to make it obvious to Enzo that he might need that as a help mechanism. But yeah, whatever. So Lady looks back into the cell, seeing Dante and Enzo being a little too fucking comfortable. Her words, not mine. And presses a button. Suddenly, two flamethrowers burst out of the wall of the van, bursting out a few flames. And the Anderson, the blonde black guy that was in episode 1, gets startled and briefly loses control of the vehicle because, of course, because he's a fucking wuss. And Enzo barely dodges the flames, and Dante's coat catches fire. Because, of course, it does. Because Dante is being stupid. Anderson then rightfully tells Lady off for not warning him for using the flamethrower, which, in my opinion, is the right thing to do. She presses another button on a remote that zips Dante all the way back to the end of the vehicle, where they are situated in this shot right here. And apparently, the flamethrowers are a custom anti-demon upgrade made for Darkcom. And that injection that Lady gave Dante at the end of episode 1 actually contains a nano explosive, which is now stuck in Dante's aorta, which is a bit of a problem, but we'll get to that. Dr. Fisher notices it cuts the show then cuts back to the Dr. Fisher, who's in one of the APCs. And the doctor notices an anomaly on the amulet, but continues to observe and take notes in regards to the power that's being put out on the transmitter. Vice President Baines then calls in for a situation rep and praises Lady, because of course he does, and wants to speak to Dante. Lady objects to that at first, but then she has to give in because it's an order from the vice president. So there you go. So Baines compliments Dante on his abilities and called them a remarkable gift. Sure, whatever. Dante still denies having demon powers and calls them superhero mutations. Yeah, sure. Baines points out that his mother and Virgil were killed by demons. And Mary, being the turbo cunt that she is in the show, replies with, yeah. We all have dead families and traumatic childhoods. Who talks like that? This is fucking lazy writing. We're only 3 episodes in. Boy, oh boy. I mean, I get it. Mary's a battle-hardened soldier in this universe, but still. Do you really have to talk like this? Really? Fuck this show. And Dante then essentially says that he tells Baines that, and us, that he never met his father. Baines then says that Dante does have demon blood in him, that it is certain. He was born with a black stain on his soul. His words, not mine. Baines offers Dante a way to cleanse himself from that stain, and by offering his services to the U.S. government to cleanse himself from that stain, because God will clean him from that when he fights for the right cause. Take from that what you will. And of course, Lady has an objection to that, because why not? And then basically, VP Baines then gives a little playground snipe towards Lady, and says, "Your passion is your strength, Mary, but don't allow it to blind you." Hey, welcome back, Martin. Baines wants to use Dante and his power as an asset for the anti-demon war. I mean, it's kind of obvious, because why would they detain him otherwise, right? He sees Dante as a gift from God to rid the demon realm of demons. He says that the president basically only cares about his image and approves of almost everything Baines tells him to do. Kind of weird. Kind of weird, if you ask me, but sure. The John Constantine reasoning. Let's see if it works out for him. Exactly. Exactly. It is kind of insane. And the convoy comes to a halt because some random police officer stops them in the middle of a pedestrian bridge. Sure, I guess. Yeah, that's just basically it. I'm just gonna throw in some music in the background so it actually makes sense what I'm talking about in a second. Let's do. Yeah, let's do this one. Shout out to Lil V for this little cover for the Cerberus battle, but I need some music in the background. So just bear with me for a second. Okay, so where were we? Yeah, the convoy comes to a halt, and Anderson, the black guy, looks outside the window and tells Mary he'll check it out, leaving her in the vehicle in the passenger seat with Enzo and Dante with her. Mary still thinks that Dante is deliberately acting dumb about the Sparta amulet and his demon powers, and she then says, "You wear half the key of hell on your fucking neck." So Christian Man bad. What a shocker. Yep. Same thing as in Castlevania. But sure. So yeah. It then cuts to the building right next to the convoy where the vehicles stop. that is shown to be rigged with explosives. Said explosives then explode, because that's what explosives do. The White Rabbit shoots a rocket launcher at the other two APCs that are being were not affected by the explosions. Then Rubble just blocks the remaining squad members from helping Lady and the others. Anderson enters the vehicle where Dr. Fisher is in, which is like the front one, I think, if I recall correctly, and tells him to hand over the amulet. There's some context missing that you only get later in the episode, but basically, Anderson made a deal with the White Rabbit to spare him and his family if he gives him the remaining part of the amulet. But yeah. Anyway, so let's continue from that one. So then all of a sudden, for no reason whatsoever, this is where the show lost me, okay? Let me see if I can... Yeah, I actually found the shot. For no fucking reason whatsoever. Keep in mind, this is a prequel to Devil May Cry 3. Allegedly. For no fucking reason whatsoever, Echidna from Devil May Cry 4 shows up. Agni and Rudra show up. And Cavalier Angelo. Let me just... Cavalier Angelo shows up for no fucking reason whatsoever. No reason whatsoever. Please clap. Please clap, yes. For no fucking reason. Yeah, my thoughts exactly, Cassie. That was my initial reaction to that. What's even dumber is Agni and Rudra have heads. Actually, their heads should be on their blades, which are actually in the shot right here, but for some reason they have an additional head here. For no fucking reason. It's probably to make the job of the animator a lot easier. I don't know. That's the only assumption that I have. But yeah. And Plasma is also here, the guy who tried to steal the amulet from Dante. It is getting kind of ridiculous at this point. Plasma then it is revealed before they actually team up that Plasma was actually the police officer holding the convoy, and he just joins the other four. Lady thinks she stands a chance against all of them, and actually starts fighting 3 of them: Agni, Rudra, and Echidna. For no fucking reason. What's up, Nagano? White Rabbit then thanks Darkcom for getting the other amulet for him, because Dante's amulet is still with Dr. Fisher. And stands on top of the APC and yells, "God bless America," for no fucking reason. Remember? Because America bad. Why did I do this to myself? I don't know. Anyway. The other 2 fire teams start shooting at the White Rabbit, who takes some of the enemies out by deflecting their bullets. Cool idea. Nothing to say here. The anti-demon bullets don't hurt White Rabbit because he's stunning and brave and he's a White Rabbit. And White Rabbit gets the APC with Fisher and Anderson, and then cuts the feed of the cameras, so Baines and the other tactical team members don't see anything. The demon amongst the team, because there's a demon amongst the Secret Service team of Vice President Baines, tells them they need to leave because they fear for his safety. The crazy thing is, this reveal that the member of this Secret Service is actually a demon is with flashing red eyes. That's what happens to Plasma, the blue creature, throughout the show as well. It is fucking stupid. American money is not bad for them to take. Yeah, but yeah, I digress. So yeah, Baines trusts the guy because he's part of the Secret Service and goes with him. It then cuts back to the bridge where it shows Lady fighting with Plasma, the blue guy, the Smurf creature here, and beats him with ease because, of course, because she's a turbo cunt. She embraces the power of the turbo cunt and beat him for the time being, at least. Echidna then smacks her into a wall, based, and she barely gets hurt by this. She just falls onto the floor and then gets back up and shoots Rudra, the blue guy, the bluish guy, because of course. And yeah, he she shoots around at Rudra, who then through sheer force with wind turns the bullet around and accidentally hits his brother Agni, the red guy. They start bickering about it, and he was like, "Oh, that was not on purpose." Blah blah blah. Both of the brothers are voiced by Ray Chase, who actually voices some of my favorite characters in Demon Slayer and other games. Cool guy, a pretty good voice actor. For those of you who play Final Fantasy 15 with the English dub, he voices Prince Noctis in Final Fantasy 15. But yeah, this feels like rage porn. Yes. Lady, for some reason, Lady, who's a regular ass human being, somehow holds her own against three of the toughest enemies: Echidna, Agni, and Rudra. I have no idea how she manages to fight them to a standstill, but she somehow does. For no reason whatsoever. But yeah, I digress. So it then cuts to Fisher and Anderson gives the medallion to the White Rabbit, who immediately starts merging the amulets because he's a villain. And there's a giant explosion because of the amulets merging, shaking the area. Dante is still shackled, by the way, in his van, in the APC that he's in. Even though I would argue that Dante should have broken these fucking shackles ages ago, if he were the actual Dante from Devil May Cry 3, but sure. And yeah, White Rabbit is now in possession of the Force Edge, the amulet, the transmitter, and the decoder. So 4 devices to open the portals to hell. Dr. Fisher tells White Rabbit that he needs an encoder for some reason to actually get the amulet deciphered to open the fucking portal. But yeah, Fisher then attacks the White Rabbit with a computer keyboard, because of course he does, because he's retarded, and the writers need an excuse to kill him off. Fisher, of course, gets stabbed by White Rabbit, because it is a futile attempt. But sure. White Rabbit then stabs Anderson in the shoulder to make it look more convincing that Anderson put up a fight, drags Anderson out of the APC and tosses him onto the streets. So it looks a little bit more convincing that he didn't have a deal with him and all that. But that's just the retarded writing of the show. I'll just leave it at that. Yeah. It then cuts to White Rabbit suddenly starting to wheeze, coughing up blood and clutching his chest. He then rips open his shirt, revealing that he's got some mechanical heart thing going on, where he has to turn like some frigging switch to give himself some sort of cocktail to get to keep his heart beating. And yeah. And in a last-ditch attempt by Dr. Fisher, who's somehow still alive, Dr. Fisher throws a grenade at the White Rabbit, because he had a grenade in his pocket for some reason, and throws it at White Rabbit. White Rabbit then deflects the grenade back to Dr. Fisher and closes the door to the APC, killing Dr. Fisher accordingly. For good this time. The next thing that happens is that Anderson, who is gravely injured by White Rabbit and the Force Edge, somehow has a remote control that is able to free Dante from his shackles. Why hasn't he done that sooner? This all could have been prevented. But no, can't have that. So yeah, Anderson then clicks the remote control and ultimately frees Dante from his shackles. Dante then thinks he's got superhuman strength, and that's why the shackles actually were removed, not by the remote control. But yeah, that's just the way it is. So Dante immediately picks up the chase after White Rabbit. White Rabbit shoots a rocket at Dante. Dante then outspeeds the rocket, turns around, and blocks the rocket with his sword for no fucking reason. Sure. Whatever. Once Dante blocked the shot, it is then revealed that White Rabbit got into one of the APCs and tries to escape. Lady is still fighting Echidna, Agni, and Rudra, but they were being told to stand down by Cavalier Angelo because they got better shit to do, apparently. Dante picks up the chase on the highway with a motorbike, which is shown right here, with a very shitty rendition of Papa Roach's Last Resort being played as the outro song. Well, basically outro song, but yeah. Dante takes the hang on. Again, yeah, okay. The Last Resort starts playing, and he then picks up the pace and tries to chase down White Rabbit. Agni and Rudra start attacking. Agni, Rudra, and Echidna start try to stop Dante. I need to see if I can find the highway chase because this scene is fucking stupid. Bike. See if I can find the scene. It is fucking stupid, honestly. The animation looks terrible, by the way. See if I can find the chase scene. But yeah, basically Dante is on a freeway being attacked by these three things. I mean, sure. Whatever you say. Sure. Whatever you say, show. This is like Captain Marvel. Oh, you're not even wrong, Nessie. That's the crazy thing. You would think that they graduated from the Captain Marvel writing team. What really pleased me about this whole writing is it's a lot of and then. Why wouldn't he ride the rocket? Exactly. I don't know. Because the Nonte, as I love to call him, is fucking retarded. That's why. That's the only logical excuse that I have, in all honesty. Fucked-hearted, yeah. He then somehow holds his own. I can't find the scene, but just bear with me. So he chases White Rabbit on the freeway with the bike, fighting against Echidna, Agni, and Rudra. He takes out the brothers with his bike by revving the engine on Agni's back, which is a cool reference to the motorbike that he gets in Devil May Cry 5. I'll give them that. That's a cool reference. But doesn't make any sense in the grand scheme of things. Cavalier Angelo then ambushes Dante and asks him what it's like. Dante then asks him what it's like to be a demon. He doesn't get an answer, of course. Okay, that's interesting. I didn't change anything about my chat, but must be the main settings on or the main updates that they gave. But yeah. Yeah, so then it cuts to Dante's eyes glowing red, as you can see in the shot right here. Because reasons. And he continues chasing White Rabbit. The lady then tells the surviving members of Darkcom that she put a tracker on the amulet so they can keep track of Dante and the White Rabbit. And Dante is losing speed because Echidna actually stabbed Dante's bike with thorns. Dante then jumps off the back of his bike with all his power, catching up to White Rabbit in the driver's seat, aiming for a kill shot. And before Dante could pull the trigger on White Rabbit's head, the bomb in his neck that lady injected him in the first episode explodes. Half of Dante's face is blown off. White Rabbit gets out of the APC and tells Dante he needs to push him even harder, and also calls him Son of Sparta, while holding him up on his collar. Plasma, the blue Smurf creature, then explains his power to some low-level Darkcom soldiers, basically telling him that he mirrors the person and needs them to be alive for his power to work. Because when you only watch episode 1, it seems like there's an implication that Plasma has to kill the person to snatch the body or take the identity. And that's the end of episode 4. 3, sorry, episode 3. You guys still with me on that one? How do you feel so far? You're probably just as confused as I am. And I watched the fucking show. But yeah. I feel nothing. Too few brain cells. Borderline sick. Yeah, exactly. That's how I felt watching this fucking show. I'm glad if I can get through another 2 episodes at this point with the pace that I'm going. So yeah, episode 4 is off to a good start already because our favorite TurboCon lady is still cussing like a teenager. She compliments Anderson for taking on White Rabbit by saying, "You've got some elite-sized balls." Elite-sized balls. Sure. Then the plasma reveals his true form to Blondie. And yeah, then basically it just cuts to Lady rallying up the troops saying, "Let's get this carrot munching motherfucker." And then it cuts to intro. Then it cuts to Dante, who obviously survived the explosion to his neck. Who gets carried onto an airplane by Agni because they have some kind of hostage situation going on. And then it gives us a flashback to the amulet scene, but this time with more context between Virgil and Dante, who start fighting about who's more powerful, and basically Dante shoves Virgil into a couch with all his force, with his mother trying to intervene. Dante then wakes up on the airplane with Enzo and a few hostages, including Vice President Baines, who's also on the plane for some reason, probably because the Secret Service demon actually took him hostage as well. I bet her balls are physically bigger. Yeah. Yeah. Basically, Dante then calls Agni Human Torch knockoff because you always have to have some pop culture references ready for some reason. That's literally what Dante calls Agni in the show. Vice President Baines then tries to convince Dante to fight for the right cause because he wants him on his side, of course. And then Agni and Rudra try to get a DVD working on a DVD player that's on a recorder TV setup like you know from school, if you're old enough for that, containing a message for White Rabbit. Right, the message basically is that Dante can save everyone when he embraces his ties to Sparta, pulling his devil trigger. DVDs, because the show is in 2001. Don't forget. For some reason, there's a video now. Stop blocking my fucking notes. Gosh. Hang on. For some reason, it's blocking my notes. Why can I not close this now? For some reason, I can't close Word right now. Because I didn't actually print the last couple of notes on my there you go. Although, no, this is not the way I want to read this. Let's see if I can find another app for that. Oh well, let me do it this way then. Anyway, so basically, there's a guy called Sentry who gets killed off by Cavalier Angelo, which is a soldier from Ladies Troops. Let me copy my notes real quick before Word gets the wrong idea. I used to open WordPad actually. Let me just do that real quick. There you go. A lot better. So don't get harassed by Microsoft. Like, hey, you don't have a copy of Microsoft Word. Fuck you. All work and no play makes Moo a very dull boy. Yep. Yep. My notes are just but why all over and over again. So yeah. So basically, Sentry, who is one of the ladies' team members, gets killed by what's it called? By Cavalier Angelo. And Echidna kills some low-level .com guards because they need to have a motive to kill off some people. Hey Netso, what's up? You can catch up on the rest later if you want, my dude. Good to see you, man. And it's basically a bloodbath because the entire lady's entire team gets killed except for her. They have some raid going on in a apartment block, and you can definitely tell that Adi Shankar has watched the raid because basically the whole entire .com team is trying to raid a building because there's some intel that the amulet would be there. Just to give you a little bit of context. That's the gist of the whole thing. So yeah, Lady's entire team gets killed except for her, and Lady narrowly escapes and has an immediate flashback to some of the gruesome deaths of her teammates because you need to remind people of how gruesomely murdered her teammates were because the attention span of the average Netflix viewer is like less than 5 seconds on average. And she then walks, her own stupidity walks into a room where a gas trap gets triggered, which is kind of works like the fear toxin in Batman, which then triggers some hallucinations. And then cuts back to the airplane. I'm on episode 4. It then cuts back to the airplane where White Rabbit basically relays to Dante that he knew Dante's origin for a while, and that the airplane that Dante and the hostages are on is basically rigged with explosives. Dante still doesn't believe that Sparta is his dad. And Agni and Rudra provoke Dante by saying that he failed to protect his family. And Dante finally frees himself out of the shackles because he's pretty angry. So there's that. It then cuts back to Lady because you can't have more than 5 minutes with Dante. It cuts back to Lady seeing hallucinations of her dead comrades after inhaling the gas and encountering some of them as hallucinations. Mary snaps out of her hallucinations just in time to dodge an attack by Cavalier Angelo because, of course, because she's a badass woman and she don't need no man. And Mary then gets taken into an apartment and soon realizes that she was saved by demons, which brings us to the infamous scene where she pulls a gun on the demons. Let me actually pull up the scene. If I can find it, that is. It's that infamous scene where she pulls a gun on some innocent demons. But yeah, sure, whatever. Don't know if I can find the scene, but we'll see about that. And basically, she then has some conflict emotions about the whole thing because she always saw demons as the root of all evil, so to speak. That's why this scene is just effing dumb to begin with. I don't know if I can find the scene, but we'll figure it out. But yeah, so basically she holds the demons at gunpoint because of course she does, and then has a hallucination where she sees the demons for who they actually are. But this scene is very manipulative because it actually shows the good demons in a less horrifying way than the actual demons that are pure evil, which is kind of funny because basically how Lady's behaving is like how the Hitler's followers have seen the Jews back then. I'll just leave it at that. Because you can't have nice things in Hollywood anymore because you always have to bring up some fucking thing. But yeah, I can't find the scene right now. If I do find it, I will add it as a context later. But it was all over Twitter the first couple of days when the show came out. It is just fucking stupid. So yeah, basically she's a bit confused by this whole thing, and then it cuts back to the airplane again. So it's a lot of jumping back and forth in this episode. So just bear with me. So the Cavalier Angelo then quickly gives up the search of the apartment complex before we cut back to the airplane. After he actually knocked on the door where the demons were that took in Lady. So yeah, back to the airplane. Agni and Rudra continue to smack talk Dante to provoke him to attack, provoke him to fight back and attack him over and over again. Dante then gets stabbed by his own sword because, of course, he does. Because you need to have that in any Devil May Cry media at some point. And then, for some reason, while Dante was being stabbed by his own sword, he then has a flashback to his mom talking about Sparta, his dad. Basically saying that his father wasn't actually such a deadbeat like the show implied him to be. And Dante, then triggered by this memory, finally uses Devil Trigger to turn to turn devil. He finally acknowledges that he's the son of Sparta. Agni then attacks Dante, and who then chops off his right hand and kills Agni with his own sword in front of his brother. So far, so good. It then cuts back to Lady holding the demons at gunpoint, and Mary gives a reasoning why they're peaceful, which is basically an allegory for refugees and being innocent. It's basically a complete retcon of 3. Yes. The family gives Mary a reasoning that White Rabbits built a device to extract demons out of Makai, which is the name that demons use for hell, and that White Rabbit does experiments on orphan children. Mary then changes the tone towards the demons and reassures the demons that them and other families are now safe, because for some reason now she is seeing the light. And yeah, it then cuts back to the airplane where Rudra, in all of his rage, blows up the airplane with everybody dropping out of the sky. And that's the end of episode 4. Still with me? Which then brings us to episode 5, called Descent. Let me find the scene for context. Let me see if I can find the scene where he falls out of the sky, because this scene is fucking dumb. It's probably on YouTube. Let me see. I am so fucking tired of this. I actually pushed this back way too long. I should have just reviewed it on the day I originally scheduled the stream, so I just get it over with. This whole episode is basically the first 5 minutes of the episode are basically just Dante falling down out of the sky. I need to get my notes to the other screen real quick, so I can actually continue reading them. So I just leave the sound off so I can actually talk about this in a transformative way, because Netflix will probably ping me for it. I don't fucking care. Netflix can go fuck themselves. Wow, really? The Christopher Reeves movies, huh? But yeah, this is the intro to episode 5. Just real quick. So yeah, everybody falls to their death. Vice President Bates is holding onto his cross, praying while he's falling, which is basically what happened in the beginning of the show when I showed off Vice President Baines. But yeah. And then it cuts to the intro, because of course it does, because you can't have the audience being invested in anything. Cavalier Angel is still on the lookout for Lady. Hey, Daily Dysfunction, how you doing? And Echidna has occupied the elevator, so Lady can't escape. For some reason, Echidna can fit into any hallway as she sees fit. For full context, Echidna is a boss that's about like 7 or 8 feet tall in the original game. Happy Easter, I guess. Yeah, well, before I forget. And yeah, more Darkholm soldiers are pulling up to the apartment block and basically just wait for the confirmation that they can raid the building. Cavalier Angelo is then shown to gather some low-level demons and prepares them to fight the humans that are about to join the building. And Lady somehow stumbles upon a room where experiments were being conducted, and yeah, it is a Frankensteinish scene. It's nightmarish to say the least. And yeah, as you saw earlier in the episode, it cuts back to Dante providing parachutes to everybody that is in free fall, basically saving everybody. And then it cuts back to Lady, who calls White Rabbit a Roger fucking Rabbit reject. And Plasma is then reveals himself to Lady, who actually took control of a teammate of hers. So they ambush that he ambushes Lady with Echidna together. It is so freaking dumb. Like the whole thing doesn't make any lick of sense, frankly. And Lady comes in guns blazing, attacking both of them, saying, "You killed the wrong bitch." And with one single shot, she manages to dispatch Echidna with one of the anti-demon bullets. Then cuts back to Dante, who triggers the full Devil trigger, and a very bad rendition of Devil trigger from Devil May Cry gets played. I need to stress this: Devil Trigger is not Dante's theme song. That's Nero's theme song, his nephew's theme song. I can't stress this enough. It just shows you the amount of competence of who wrote the show. A fucking wet lettuce wrote this. But yeah, Dante saves everyone, and Vice President Baines then says to Dante, "Even the devil can do God's work." Not the worst line in the show, so I'll just leave it at that. It then cuts back to Lady. If you think I'm making this up, this is literally how this episode goes. But smooth from your game, member. Yeah. It's obvious that friends didn't write the show. Exactly. Thank you for saying that. Thank you for saying that. Adi Shankar is a fucking hack. Well, I'll get to him when we're done here. Anyway, so yeah, if you think this, I took some confused notes. No, this is how this show's written. We get back to Lady, who opens the gates for Darkcom in a communications room, and basically tells the soldiers to get all the demons that are in the apartment block out of there and kill all the evil demons, right? But the main problem is that the entrance is rigged with explosives, and Lady manages to warn the soldiers just in time because the communications were also scrambled and throughout the whole building, because of course they were. It then cuts back to Dante again, who is now fighting Rudra in the skies of New York City and smacks him into a construction site, because of course he does. With this devil power, I should add. This is the only time where the power levels are not like wonky. It then cuts back to Lady again, using the announcement system to talk to all the Macayan families in the building, and reassures them that it's safe for them, and calls the demons refugees and passes orders onto the soldiers to take them out of the building safely and give them shelter. It then cuts back to the fights between Dante and Rudra. Dante, for some reason, loses his devil trigger mid-flight and flies into an apartment block with Rudra, which happens to be the same building as Lady is in. Lady then comes in randomly. She somehow teleported from the communications room into the hallway where Dante and Rudra were, and shoots Rudra in the head with an explosive round, which kills Rudra instantly. It is then revealed that the tracker that Lady placed for the amulet was placed in a teacup by the White Rabbit. So it was basically a setup. White Rabbit then talks to Dante and Lady about his motives. And yeah, the Vice President Baines then talks to the soldiers over the real communication system, and tells them to actually change their minds and actually kill all the demons instead of giving them refuge. It then cuts to Plasma, who apparently is not dead, but he got stabbed by echidnas with poison thorns, but he's alive again. White Rabbit is descending upon is then shown on top of a skyscraper and threatening the U.S. government that he will descend upon New York with his forces within 30 minutes. Baines overturns the order that Lady gave the soldiers and tells them to kill all the Macaians. And yeah, White Rabbit basically reveals his main goal to eviscerate Darkholm and get Dante's amulet to open the gates of hell to the human world. It is kind of like McGee's Alice games. Yeah, it is close to that. The White Rabbit is basically from Alice in Wonderland, which is kind of funny because in the next episode that we're about to go in, Lady actually reads Alice in Wonderland. Go figure. But yeah, Plasma witnesses the murder of all the Macaians, and then punches a literal kill switch within the building, blowing up the entire thing because the whole building was rigged with explosives. Ending the episode. So that's episode 5. We still got 3 more to go. We're already almost 3 hours in. As you can tell, my notes got shorter and shorter, so you can tell when I stopped giving a shit. Even though episode 8's notes are a little bit longer, but yeah. It then introduces a new intro animation, which is shorter than the Roland one, and we get more of more backstory about Lady. Ironically, it has the best animation in the show by far. Let me actually find some screenshots for it because it is actually kind of cool how they did this. Let's see here. Yeah, the song that's being played in the background is Dante's original theme in Devil May Cry 5 before they censor it. Let's see. But yeah, this episode is actually not the worst one. I'll give credit where credit is due. The episode is relatively quiet. There's mostly music being played, which is actually a good thing, in my opinion. And I can't find a screenshot for it, but I might actually add it later on, but we'll see. And yeah, basically, this is the best episode by far because there's no dialogue in it, just music and animation. The first few minutes of the episode cover the fallout of Lady's parents. Lady then gets smacked by Arkham in the face, who then gets taken away by Child Protective Services. Sure. She's then shown reading Alice in Wonderland, as I pointed out earlier, and then a portal suddenly appears next to her. Lady is a kid in the episode, just keep that in mind. Lady then enters the portal, and then enters it and gets chased by a giant monster. I should add this episode is just purely music with a change in animations. So whenever she's in Demon Realm, there's a different animation style compared to the human realm. So both worlds have a different animation style in that episode, which is cool, but it doesn't make any sense in context. Mary then gets rescued by some demons and then gets shown around the demon realm. The scenes jump back and forth where she plays with, I think it was her brother and some demons. So there's like a little bit of context behind like that humans and demons are pretty much the same. Demons were being enslaved, and then out of nowhere, the Evanescence song starts playing, Afterlife. I mean, I have no gripes about the song. The song's pretty good. I'm actually kind of glad that we got some new Evanescence music in the year of 2025. But that's the only good thing I can give this. But yeah, it then suddenly cuts back to Mary's dad, Arkham, who's then shown injecting himself with some kind of substance, killing Mary's mother. If you need a reference of what Arkham looks like now, he kind of looks like Nosferatu. Is that Nosferatu-like creature? Mary then tries to fight back against her father, finding scalpels on the floor and trying to attack him, but obviously loses. Yep, new Evanescence, one song called Afterlife. You can check it out for yourself because I don't want to get pinged with copyright, so I'm not playing it here. Yeah, but instead of stabbing her father with a scalpel, she she hits some kind of chemical, some burnable chemical, which accidentally sets her father on fire. So yeah, basically, Lady is responsible for her father's demise. The entire house is on fire, and Mary actually has a shot in the episode where she actually wears her classic outfit. Very briefly. This is the only shot in the entire show where she actually wears this outfit. The only shot in the entire episode, or the entire series, I should say. But I'll just leave it at that. It is freaking stupid, in my opinion, but sure. Yeah, I wonder if anybody actually proofread this script. I legit ask myself that question. I don't know, Abe. I think I was just sleep deprived. And I just hope for myself to get the sweet release of death watching this show. But yeah, Mary is basically responsible for killing her own father. Congratulations, you made Mary even more evil than you probably intended to. Yeah, then some man is shown building the transmitter that the White Rabbit uses to open a portal. And a montage of her earlier days as a demon hunter with Darkcom are being shown. We are then now at the last 120 seconds of the episode, where we get brief dialogue, which ruins the entire episode because she opens her fucking gob, and it shows a giant demon breaking through a portal. After some demons were trying to escape from hell with where some man led the people out of hell. Mary evacuates the warehouse where the giant demon is in, throwing an entire belt of grenades into the building, with about 6 to 8 grenades on the belt. Okay. I should point out that there's children and adult demons and kids in that room. But she's like, nah, fuck them, and just throws a belt of grenades live grenades into that room. After evacuating it for her team. Everyone in that room is dead except for one guy, the guy who actually led the charge to escape hell. The giant demon is dead. All the kids are dead. All the other grown-ups are dead. It then turns out that the remaining survivor is actually White Rabbit, who actually had a pretty normal looking face, but then starts stitching this White Rabbit head onto his neck. I, and I even say this in my notes. Ironically, this is the best episode of the batch, probably due to the lack of dialogue. This ends the episode. That's it. So you got the origin of why Mary hates Mary basically killing her father because fuck him, and White Rabbit becoming the man that he is now. So basically, he is a kind of a humanoid demon hybrid, being a with a white rabbit head stitched on top of him. That's episode 6. So far, so good. We then get to episode 7, called At the Gates of Paradise, which is the penultimate episode. So it cuts back to current day 2001 in New York, where White Rabbit goes through Hell's Portal and has to recalibrate his heart again, because of course he does, because he needs his drugs, I guess. He then gives the necklace to Nello Angelo, which is, for those who don't know, is Virgil in demon form, after he loses to Dante in Devil May Cry 3, who then drops a bit of blood onto the amulet. White Rabbit apparently knows that Nello Angelo is Virgil, and then the intro comes in, the Limp Bizkit one. So the episode then continues with lady waking up on top of Dante, because there was some explosion going on and they were just flung out of the building. Because White Rabbit just loves blowing shit up, I guess. Instead of actually thanking Dante for saving her, she berates him. And Dante is being told to face White Rabbit and alone, but Lady ignores that bargain and shoots him in the leg, because she's a turbo cunt and she needs to do turbo cunt things, and then traps him in the last remaining APC vehicle that's left. So far, so good. Then, for some reason, it cuts to somewhere in the middle of NYC, where Butterfly from Crazy Town starts playing. There's some rando who drives around with like some Cadillac kind of vehicle without the rooftop on it. Lady then stops this guy at gunpoint and steals the vehicle from him. Again, she's supposed to be a heroine in this show. I just want to remind you, she's supposed to be a heroine. Okay, just throwing that out there. You know, just throwing it out there. But sure, whatever. Just throwing that out there. Yeah, don't even ask questions anymore, Natty. This is the point where the show completely lost me. Yeah. So yeah, then it cuts to Anderson, the blonde black guy, who receives a call from White Rabbit trying to convince him that he has to uphold a part of his bargain for some reason, even though he actually upheld it for the most part. What does slog mean? Yeah, honestly, this show is a slog to get through. Keep in mind, most of the episodes are maybe 24, 25 minutes long in total, but it feels like fucking forever. Because keep in mind, I had to pause every once in a while to just take notes as I was watching. So I actually unintentionally made the show longer for me than I probably should have done. But yeah, basically, a lady faces off against a giant abomination that is in the middle of New York, and defeats it with no problem whatsoever. and basically, Lady threatens Dante to turn him into ash if he doesn't abide by her rules. She has like this remote control that triggers the flamethrowers inside the APC. And because she actually encounters White Rabbit instead of Dante, even though the bargain was that Dante comes alone. White Rabbit then gives her the amulet for some fucking reason. She then banters back and forth with him, and basically, White Rabbit tells Cavalier Angelo to kill her. She whips out the rocket launcher, the iconic rocket launcher that she has in the actual game. I can actually show this image because I actually have it prepared. The classic Catalina-Ann rocket launcher that she has in the game. Remember? Remember berries? Catalina-Ann, remember? And yeah, she blocks in a direct hit from Cavalier Angelo, who's just attacking like from the front, and she somehow blocks it with the rocket launcher, like a direct sword hit. I should point out, right? So yeah, she gets cut in the upper arm by some random demon and then loses footing because there was some poison on the blade that the demon was attacking her with for no freaking reason, I guess. But yeah, she loses footing and then loses consciousness. Dante then White Rabbit then takes the amulet from Lady, and then it cuts to Dante, who frees himself from the APC and then holds up as part of the bargain and actually shows up. Dante and White Rabbit go into the demon realm, where he's outmatched by White Rabbit because Dante is just Dante in name only. He's basically Nero from DMC4 at this point. I don't know if there's some kind of meta joke going on because Johnny Young Bosch is playing Dante that he's automatically been weakened or something. I don't know. It is just fucking stupid, is what it is. And yeah, Dante then starts cutting through. He gets flung out into the. No, White Rabbit actually leaves the Hell domain and goes back to the human world, leaving Dante behind. And Dante is stuck fighting minions. Dante cuts through those minions like it's nothing. It's almost like he actually has the power levels that he should be having, but a little too late, in my opinion. Dante, Cavalier Angelo then attacks Dante, and Dante loses his sword, which kind of forces him to improvise and picks up two spiky balls like as melee weapon. Yes, Johnny Young Bosch. The Johnny Young Bosch. Dante picks up like two spiky balls and then punches Cavalier instead. Think of the gloves that Dante has to fight, but instead it's like the spiky balls. The music in this fight is actually pretty good. I have to say, it's like some industrial rock kind of thing. It's actually fairly good. Lady then wakes up all of a sudden and tries to fire a shot at Cavalier, but White Rabbit catches her just in time. Dante then gets shoved back into the demon realm again, and White Rabbit reveals his true identity to a Lady, who's then pretty shocked about the reveal and thought that guy was dead. Remember, it's the same guy that was escaping hell with the demons. And yeah, Dante is fighting off a horde of enemies again, and Cavalier continues his assault on Dante, who's now back in who now got punched back into the human realm with Cavalier Angelo. Dante then finds the portal device that opens up this mini portal into hell, and just kicks it away like some kind of toy. Like, whatever, boom, kicks it away, triggering the portal device by switching it off. Conveniently, Cavalier Angelo is standing in this portal and gets the top of his dome cut off by the portal whilst it's being shut. Cavalier Angelo is now dead. Yeah, me neither. Pretty dumb way to go, but sure, whatever. Dante then sees White Rabbit's actual appearance and starts mocking him, saying that he actually looked better with the rabbit's head on. Doctor Strange portal logic, exactly. White Rabbit then cuts into Dante's hand and falls off the building. And basically, Vice President Baines then shows up with a fucking helicopter and then says the assault onto Hell is on. That's the end of episode 7. Then we go to the final episode. Thank fuck, because I'm losing patience. Called a River of Blood and Fire. So, White Rabbit actually then is shown. No, wait. Actually, let me rewind back a little bit. So there's one random demon that actually survived the onslaught that Dante was doing on the rooftop, who then gets killed by White Rabbit. White Rabbit is then shown to drink his blood and then transforms into some giant fucking abomination. Let me see if I can find an image of it, because it's actually hilarious how stupid that looks. Apologies for the swearing if you're that sensitive. Meh, whatever. I mean, I'll say this much. White Rabbit is actually a very intriguing villain. Up to this point, I actually like White Rabbit quite a lot. Even though he's only loosely based, only a minor character in the manga that he spawns from. Let me see if I can find the image of the giant freaking abomination that he is in that episode. Oh yeah, there it is. See, I knew it. So wait, no, this is okay. Right, just brace yourselves. This probably looks fucking ridiculous on paper. Boom. This is what he looks like now after the transfusion of blood. Pretty ridiculous, right? Yeah, fuck this show. I'll just leave it at that. And then you have this. This is the ultimate form of him. For some reason I cannot zoom in anymore because it's fucking Reddit. There you go. This is the ultimate form that he gets by the end of the episode. Mr. McCracken, hey, how you doing, man? How you doing, man? But yeah, this is basically what he turns into. A giant fucking abomination. I'll just leave it at that because I don't want to get eye cancer again. So fuck that. So yeah, he transforms, and then the intro cuts in. Darkholm is then shown to pile up the dead bodies for the press, so they can take pictures with them. There's even soldiers being shown taking selfies with the dead bodies, kind of like Abu Ghraib in a sense. Remember that infamous photo from the Abu Ghraib soldiers who were posing with naked dead bodies? Yeah, that. Dante and Lady have a disagreement in regards to who is better to protect the amulet, because of course Lady trusts Baines more and argues that he's a better fit for protecting the amulet than Dante is. But even though Dante is the spawn of Sparta, but fuck it, I guess. And then Enzo offers Dante some more jobs, and Dante says that his price has tripled after this incident. And yeah, basically, Baines is then Vice President Baines is then questioning the lady's loyalty. And Dante is then calls out Baines in return, pointing out his hypocrisy in actually wanting war with hell. Because remember, George W. Bush was a fucking idiot, you know. So VP Baines is basically the George W. Bush in this scenario, even though he's only the VP. So, but no, he's the Dick Cheney basically. But yeah, the roided out white rabbit that I showed you earlier starts attacking the military, Dante, Baines, and Lady. Baines narrowly escapes, leaving some of the soldiers on the rooftop with Lady and Dante. And Dante and Lady take on the enemy because, of course, they do. Because remember, Devil May Cry, you know. And yeah, the demon bullets don't do anything. The anti-demon bullets that Lady has in her guns don't do anything against him. Then there's 4 choppers showing up trying to shoot him with a minigun. That doesn't do anything. He just gets tickled by the bullets, basically. And Dante continues the fight, but is criminally outmatched because Dante can't have any agency in his own show, even though he's only guest starring in it. Enzo then appears in front of White Rabbit, trying to attack him with Catalina-Ann, the rocket launcher that Lady has, but then gets stabbed instead, basically sacrificing himself. Pretty stupid death, if you ask me, but yeah, I digress. Happy Easter, chat. Happy Easter. This is what I do for your entertainment, folks. I'll suffer through shit so you don't have to. And Christ, Jesus died for this. Remember, so we can have shitty entertainment like this. But yeah, Enzo is now dead because we can't have the Guy Fieri knockoff. You need a break from this Tism factory. We're almost at the end, Phoenix. That's the crazy thing. But yeah, Enzo's dead now, and Enzo's death pisses off Dante even more, making him almost go into Devil Trigger. But he's not there just yet. He's almost there, but his red eyes are flashing already. So White Rabbit then smacks him around some more. And yeah, Lady captured a helicopter and tries to get Dante out of the combat zone, which is actually the nicest thing she's done in the entire show to Dante, at least. And yeah, that's just the thing it is. Dante then tackles White Rabbit, who then loses the amulet. And yeah, for those who are slow, White Rabbit then reveals that Virgil isn't dead, because of course he isn't. Because how else would he have interacted with Nello Angelo, right? White Rabbit manages to stab Dante with the demon sword Spada, which then triggers him to lose blood. The blood of Dante and Virgil then touches the amulet because, for some reason, Nello Angelo gave him a vial of Virgil's blood, so he can drip it onto the fucking medallion, opening up Hell's Gate. And then Dante gets stabbed repeatedly by White Rabbit. Lady has 1 shot left in her gun. And as White Rabbit is stabbing Dante, she waits for the perfect opportunity for his chest to be exposed, so she can shoot the chest with the machine that he has in his chest. She of course hits the chest, and then blood comes gushing out. Dante rips out the demon sword Spada out of his chest that he got stabbed with, turning into the devil, and then attacks White Rabbit as well. He cuts White Rabbit in half and reclaims the amulet. And the invasion of the Hellish Horde stops because the amulet is now back with Dante and not with White Rabbit. Dante then catches up with a lady, who basically just tells tells him what happened back at the apartment block where the Macayans were in, and it basically tells him that she watched everyone die in that building. And they actually have a little heart to heart for a change. And it's probably the least obnoxious scene in the whole entire series where they interact with each other. Dante then offers Lady to team up in the future, like Tango and Cash or the Lethal Weapon guys. Yes, Dante literally mentions Tango and Cash and Lethal Weapon for some fucking reason, because pop culture, I guess. And because Mary is still a turbo cunt, she actually jabs him with a tranquilizer while he has his back turned to her, knocking out Dante and telling him that he still has to take him in. Remember, Dante is a half demon, right? Why am I even doing this still? Yeah, so then it cuts to Baines, who takes the transmitter from Anderson. And then Baines calls out Anderson's motivations and wants and basically it's not just a half demon. Yeah, he's a half of a bitch. That's what he is. So yeah, Baines wants to wage war in the name of with hell in the name of God, because of course, because my religion bad. Remember, and Baines shoots Anderson out of the airplane, who then falls to his death. He's the son of the king of hell, the slayer of Satan himself. Yeah, but that doesn't matter. Yeah, so basically Anderson dies now too, because they need to kill off all the unnecessary plot holes that they might create for season 2 or the second half of season 1, if you, whichever way you want to call it. And Baines opens the portal to hell because he still has the portal device that Dante kicked around on the rooftop of the building that they were fighting on earlier. Which then leads us to the infamous scene of American Idiot being played. Let me actually pull up the Discord message for that. Let me see. We had that. Pretty sure we had that already. Let me see. There's actually a shot in the trail in that. Just give me 1 second, guys. Give me 1 second because I need to make this right. So yeah, I'll just open. I'll just throw this image onto screen. So you see Baines actually pulling all the stops to start the war with hell. So he's got some jet fighters going through the portal somehow. American Idiots from Green Day starts playing because, of course, America's then shown to invade hell and basically wipes the floor with hell for some reason, even though that's kind of dumb. And yeah, Dante gets put into cryo sleep back at the White House. The president of the United States then addresses the nation, telling them that hell is real. And it then cuts to the Ouroboros research facility, which is a made up place for the show. Pretty sure that's from Resident Evil as well, but I don't expect Adi Shankar to actually know what the fuck he's talking about. Basically, it is like Alcatraz, like a giant fucking prison cell, essentially. But yeah, that's besides the point. I'll just leave it at that because fuck this show. And yeah, let's get through the final couple of seconds. So the invasion of hell is in the final 5 minutes of the show. The invasion of hell probably only takes up like 2 minutes of the finale. So yeah, after the address of to the nation, it cuts to the Ouroboros research facility where some of the demons are being taken hostage. Some of the actual evil demons, not the good demons. And then Nello Angelo shows up in the research facility and kills all the guards with a judgment cut, which is the signature move that Virgil does. And it's basically a screen clearer to kill all the enemies in sight. Nello Angelo then transforms into Virgil, Dante's half brother. Or well, no, not half brother, but twin brother. Sorry, I need to. My brain is fried just reading the notes. So yeah, this is the final shot of the episode, showing Virgil's face. And he then says that he is the storm that humanity wasn't expecting. He says, I am that storm. The episode ends, and then a female led vocal version of Bury the Light starts playing. And that's the end of the show. No post-credit scenes, nothing. That's how the show ends. This was 8 episodes of complete and utter garbage. Yeah, don't waste your breath. Season 2 is coming. It is already confirmed because they cut the whole show into 2 halves. Because of course they did. Thank fuck this show is not canon. Yeah, as I said in the beginning of the stream, this is a 3 out of 10. I'll give them 1 point for the animation, even though it's fucking garbage. 1 point for being Devil May Cry, even though it's not only Devil May Cry name only. And maybe 1 point for the voice cast. And that's it. And I'm being very fucking generous right here. I'm being very, very generous. Fundamentally, what this boils down to is that Adi Shankar doesn't understand Devil May Cry. And neither do his co-writers. And I'm being very concerned about the fact that these fuckers are supposed to be writing a Blaze Blue show for Netflix. And Adi Shankar also voiced the desire to do Berserk. I really hope he doesn't get the license for that. This show should not be watched, especially if you are a giant fan of Devil May Cry. This is nothing like the games. Nothing like the games. Stop giving fucking morons and untalented hacks beloved IPs so they can bastardize them. I am fucking sick and tired of these talentless freaks in Hollywood bastardizing the things we love. I know how Tolkien fans feel now. I know how fans of other pieces of media that have been bastardized by Hollywood feel like now. And I'm sick and tired of this shit. I am sick and fucking tired of this. So yeah, to give you the TLDR again, for those who weren't there at the beginning, this is official fan fiction. It is non-canon, but it doesn't excuse the fact that the quality and affiliation with the DMC property is there. We deserve better than this. The 2007 anime from Capcom themselves with Studio Madhouse was much better than this shit. An 18-year-old anime is better than this shit. I don't even want to know how much money they put into this, but I'm pretty sure Studio Mir can do it better than this. Fuck this show. Fuck this show. The music is fucking terrible. The Power Glove duo, the fucking Aussies who did the remixes for the Devil May Cry songs, need to be fired. I hope Casey Edwards actually put some effort into for season 2, because I heard that he's getting involved with season 2. It makes the Ninja Theory game, DMC Devil May Cry, look like fucking Shakespeare in comparison, and that's saying something. The combat scenes are utter garbage, very underwhelming, and the power levels in the show don't make any lick of sense. How is it that a regular ass human like Lady can go toe to toe with Agni, Rudra, and Echidna? This doesn't make any fucking sense. Even Dante can do that, especially not DMC free Dante. Unnecessary politics being woven into a Devil May Cry, who was never political to begin with. Devil May Cry was never about politics. But yeah, Adi Shankar to make it a fucking 9/11 trauma dump. And the only reason why they used Rollin' as the intro song is because it was filmed on top. The music video for that song was filmed on top of the World fucking Trade Center. That's the only reason why they fucking used that song as the intro. I'm unironically expecting Virgil to destroy the World Trade Center in that show in season 2. I'm unironically waiting for that now. I am unironically waiting for that to happen. I'm just waiting for it. You can tell that Adi Shankar was definitely influenced by the time he came to the US in the early 2000s. It fucking shows, especially in his musical influence and anything else that is related to this fucking show. Fuck you, Adi Shankar, for bastardizing one of the most beloved IPs that I grew up with. Go fuck yourself, and I hope Netflix fires you, dumbass. You already ruined Castlevania, and now you done fucked it up with Devil May Cry. Go fuck yourself. You made one of the most badass female characters in Devil May Cry an insufferable turbo cunt who unintentionally becomes the villain of the show in part. You made Dante a cuck. I think you mixed up Nero and Dante a little bit. And you cast Johnny Young Bosch, who it's not his fault. He actually tries to give his best performance they can give, but when he gets angry, he can't help but sound like Nero. And I think there's this meme going around that Johnny Young Bosch is Nero, so we have to nerf Dante as well. That's the only logical sense that I can make of this. This show was obviously split into 2 seasons, even though it was only 1. And I don't expect things to change for season 2. It can only get worse from now on. I'm just waiting for Nero to show up, being voiced by Dan Southworth instead of Johnny Young Bosch, or we get the double Johnny Young Bosch of Nero and Dante being voiced by the same fucking guy. I'm just waiting for it. At this point. The only net positive I can give this show is one thing. It introduces a new generation of people to the Devil May Cry video games who are far superior in writing and combat and choreography and everything else. It blows everything out of the water. Literally everything that this show represents. It makes them realize how shit the writing of the Netflix show actually is. So yeah, thank fucking God for that. We got a new Evanescence song in the year of the Lord 2025, so that's actually a net positive, I guess. Ugh. And yeah, the White Rabbit in the show is actually a good villain. You had a good villain up until the point you roided him out and made him look like fucking Joker from Arkham Asylum. You had a good thing going with that one, but you fucked it up. You didn't stick the landing. Yeah, I predict the same thing, Cassie. Once season 2 hits, there won't be a renewal for this show because of the backlash they already got. The Evanescence song is a bait on a hook for the show, and it only gets used in one episode. One episode. That's the best episode of the show, ironically. Yeah. So let's go back to the negatives real quick, and then we probably should get the fuck out of here because I'm just getting more and more angry. Which is actually good because it gives me energy to actually go hit the gym later on, maybe. So negatives. The show focuses way too much on Lady. You could have called this show Lady May fucking Cry or Lady May fucking Swear because she has way more screen time than Dante. I think she takes about 60% of the runtime. Dante is just making a cameo in his own fucking show. And yeah, the animation in the show is very hit and miss. It seems rather unfinished in places. Almost like it was rushed out of the door. And some of the musical choices were pretty odd despite being set in a certain time period, and it doesn't make any sense to begin with. But yeah, I'll just leave it at that. I hope this show gets canceled after the second half of season 1. Nobody should fucking watch this. Save your 4 hours and watch something else instead. Watch The Working Man with Jason Statham instead. You have a far better time with that movie than with this fucking show. Trust me. Right. Glad I got that out of my system. So yeah, 3 out of fucking 10. Go fuck yourself, Adi Shankar. Oh. The MCU is being remade. Rumor has it Dan Rubin and even Arkham's voice actor are back for that one, so cheer up. Well, thank Christ. I hope it happens because Devil May Cry fans deserve better than this. Yeah, I definitely need a palate cleanse. But yeah, like I said, watch The Working Man instead. A far better time than this piece of shit. And now I can rest. Didn't expect to go 3.5 hours. I actually expected this stream to be at least 5 hours long. But I actually noticed that my notes got shorter and shorter, and I was like, well, I might as well just power through it. I'm glad I did. But yeah, don't bother watching this show. For your own sanity, don't. Oh, jeez, man. Yeah, I'm just gonna pretend that this show doesn't exist from now on. I'm glad I got that out of my system. So sorry about that. At least I suffered through it for you. And I hope you don't encounter this show yourself. For your own sanity, please don't watch it. So Devll May Cry. Yeah. Yeah. It is actually that's actually a very fitting title. Yeah, I actually lost a subscriber over this review. Hilarious. Ironic that on Easter Sunday, Smooth sacrificed himself. Yeah. See the things I do for you people. You know, this is this is my sacrifice for Easter Sunday. Yeah. Don't bother with this show, folks. Honestly, really don't. Anyway, um I actually have nobody to redirect you guys to. If Tomby would have been live, I would have sent you to Tomby. But sadly, he's not live right now. I think he's taking the day off from what I understood. So I'll just leave it at that. Yeah. Thank you guys for watching. Sorry if I got a bit more agitated towards the end and a little bit more angry than I probably should have been. Thank you for sticking around and hearing me rant about this crap. And yeah, probably see you guys tomorrow for something more fun and more rewarding. Preferably in the early afternoon. Same time, same place. You know. You have a great Sunday. Take care of yourselves. Bye for now.